Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Slot One Super Podcast. We are here live with you guys now for episode 29. There's your boy, the Masked Ningen. I'll be your main host for this week. We have a lot of very interesting stuff to talk about for both versions of the game, because good old same time celebrations, everybody gets to join in on the fun.
Yes, sir.
And of course, joining in on the fun on the panel, as always, my boys, we got Minato directly to my right. How's it going, dude?
Hello. Let me bring my camera up a little so you can see my but yeah, hello.
There he is.
I clipped off. Hello, gamers. Hope you're all having a great day, and we'll be cooking today, so there's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
And of course, to the far right is our boy Theo, aka Dokkan
Hello.
Assets. How's it going, my friend?
Good. That was a fire transition, by the way. I gotta say, good job, like leading that into the introduce to the people. That was good. I like that.
There you go. See, all right, we run a professional
Cooking,
operation
baby.
over here. He says, crossing his fingers that Discord will work properly this week. So
It won't. Parentheses. It will not.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I set it up. We're all
the
good.
slot One Super Podcast not have technical difficulties challenge. Impossible. But anyway, we are here. We are here for another episode, and of course, we now finally, as of, well, I guess early this morning for me, late last night for some of you, we finally have the information about the Saiyan Day celebration, at least in terms of who the headline unit is, the banner unit. We have them in the data download, so I know some of us have already done the advanced showcases, so we got lots of stuff to talk about this week. And we, of course, are going to go ahead and jump straight in. Let me just make sure I've got the right image here ready to go, because of course the unit that we are going to start off by talking about is going to be the Saiyan Day headliner himself, and that is the base form Vegeta that transforms into a Super Saiyan from the fight with Android 19, the first Super Saiyan transformation of Vegeta in the series. This is something a lot of people really wanted to see in the game. It's been something I've seen people talk about a lot. It's one of those early iconic moments for Vegeta, and we are finally getting it in the game. So Minato, I'll throw it over to you first for the unit itself. I know you've done an advanced showcase as well. I have my own thoughts after doing my one, but why don't you tell us a little bit about Vegeta, what he does, and what you think of him in terms of the actual unit and his performance.
So yeah, in terms of Vegeta, he is a Vegeta's family and Super Saiyan's category leader, which I think, the Vegeta's family team hasn't gotten a new leader since what? In Ssj Vegeta, right? That was 2 years ago. So
Really? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, even though the team's not really that great right now, I think that it paired with Super Saiyans, especially on the GP version, we have like EZA Blue Evolution Vegeta, right? And then you could you could even throw Int Module Vegeta on the team if you want, right? There's like that option. It's really just adding that year 6 EZA character to the Super Saiyans team, which is already pretty good, right?
Yep.
Especially after the anniversary where we got Gogeta and Broly, who do both fit the team. So overall, I think the team is good. I think his team will be very, very nice. He's basically, I've seen a lot of people talk about, oh, this guy is like the new tech Gohan. I'm not sure if I would 100% say that, but I see where people are coming from with it, where he's just a stacking unit that has guard, but he also has damage reduction. So, and pretty good multiplicative stats, right? How this guy works in his base form is that he's going to be getting a guaranteed additional super for the first 3 turns. So you stack them up for like 1 or 2 turns. Then on turn 3, even if you really want to, you could transform into the Super Saiyan Vegeta.
Yeah.
Then he's like all around just a very good slot 1 character. Still has the guard, still has 18% reduction. Usually, if you stack him up a couple of times, if he gets like 5 stacks, this guy could be 1 million defense once his full defense buff is up, with guard and 18% reduction. So he's able to live a lot of the super attacks that are in the game, if not all of them. That's just very, very powerful because, again, 1 mil by itself, in terms of defense, is crazy, but that's not enough. But if you have guard and 18% reduction, then you're cooking. after he super attacks, he'll be doing from my experience, he can get like depending on how the enemy's HP is at, he gets more attack buffs, right? So he could maybe be like 10 mil range, and then he can go up to like 15, 16 mil range. He can get a bunch of the additional super attacks depending on if he's received a hit or not within the turn. And he also has a nullification of the enemy's action, which I think could be very useful in certain situations. But yeah, I like this guy a lot. And my favorite part is that his defense activates when he's receiving the attack. So it's not like after. So he doesn't have to receive one attack where he takes a lot of damage.
Yeah.
It activates before he takes the attack, which is really, really, really good for him. And that's pretty much it there. I think he will be cooking. I think this Vegeta, they made it really powerful. And my opinion from using him, he seems like he's going to be the best TUR in terms of like Dokkan Fest in general.
Yep.
Seen a lot of people discuss whether him or Kefla is better. I mean, Kefla, I would honestly say she was like straight up the best TUR. Better than like even Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Hirudegarn potentially. Like you could argue her as that level. So he's definitely like above the existing TURs we have. And I would say he probably is better than Kefla. But I haven't used Kefla yet myself, so I can't say for sure. But I'm a huge fan of this Vegeta.
Yeah.
Banner looks pretty solid too. So
Yep.
I like him.
I think the major difference in comparing him to Kefla is the fact that she can obviously do bigger attack stats from earlier on, but he just like dwarfs her in terms of how good he is defensively. So
Yeah,
like, she just relies on dodge essentially in
he
the
will
harder
be
phases. But
he'll be consistently good with the defense. You could almost say it's like similar to Blue Evolution Vegeta and UI Goku, where UI Goku, he has the dodge, right? And early on, he may take less damage, do more damage, but Vegeta, both the Vegeta characters will be consistent defensively, which is really good for them. I guess the only thing I don't really like too much is in his base form, he has like that additional super where there's a Goku ally in rotation or an enemy. I feel like you're not really going to get that too much on his own team, which is why I would have really liked him to be like a pure Saiyans leader. But at the very least, you have like on global, like who are you going to run on that team? The Super Saiyan trio would be the best option.
Global is tricky. It's like the Super Saiyan trio or like the God Goku still potentially, but the JP, you have units like even that STR like Goku and Vegeta that fuse into Vegeta
Super
Vegeta that you have now is obviously a Goku, and the good thing about that is by the time you transform with them into Vegeta, you're going to transform with Vegeta, who then doesn't need a Goku once he's transformed. So I do actually quite like that aspect of his design, because it means there's a bunch of Goku and Vegeta units you could potentially run him with that end up transforming, but then they've transformed by the time he transforms, and then he doesn't need a Goku on the rotation anymore. So I think that is actually quite good design.
One other good thing is that even if you keep Vegeta untransformed, he doesn't run out of the guard. He doesn't. He does lose a damage reduction, right? But by the time he's stacking up, so like in the Gogeta Blue fight, or like some of these longer fights, like the movie bosses fight, you can keep this guy stacking, and his transformation condition is so easy that you're not really gonna worry about like, I have to transform now, or else I'm not gonna be able to in a future turn.
Yeah. And
the good thing with Vegito is with the base Vegeta, right? He wants to be at higher HP when he attacks and receives an attack to get his full buffs.
Yeah.
But with Super Vegito, he heals you to full now. So no matter what, you're guaranteed gonna get Vegeta's full pass if he's in slot 1, basically, which is nice. I guess
he seems very, 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 very strong, and lots of good options. The global team is a bit wonky, I will say, from doing my own.
A little.
When I did my showcase, because obviously mine was out a bit later, because the data download was at like 3 a.m. UK time, I decided to do mine. Just to make it a little bit different, I did mine using only units that are available on global, and the team is definitely a bit more wonky, but you do get to use Kefla, and even though she only gets a 170 lead from him, she still does a lot of damage, so it's pretty good. But
there's actually one last thing I want to say about him aging. I feel like, if we ever get in a situation where he's like a slot 3 character, or he's like not on rotation anymore, my issue is I could think of like, your slot 1 character gets supered, eats 400k damage, then he loses so much of his buffs and base form that he could just end up getting like hurt a lot in the last slot. Like, so I'm not sure about him as a floater, he seems like a very, very like I want to be on rotation character, right?
Yeah.
Because he wants those buffs, especially in the base form. And he wants to receive the attack to get the guaranteed additional super when he's transformed. So that's all I'm gonna say about the Vegeta. But yeah, I like.
But yeah, I think he's definitely very, very strong. So Theo, the big thing I mentioned to you before the podcast. So I've seen some people on the old social media saying that they were not particularly impressed with his animations. I wasn't too sure when we saw them in the Dokkan Now and like the tweet, but when I actually did the showcase, seeing them in game and at like the 2x speed, I do quite like them. But why don't you give us our thoughts? Give us the breakdown. I know you're saying you've been working on the animation analysis video, so give us your thoughts on the Dokkan Fest Super Saiyan Vegeta animations.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting, honestly, because I have seen a lot of like that discourse too, where it seems like I've seen people even like in the official stream chat, right? And even in like my own like chat when I was streaming the Dokkan Now live, people, it was either like, oh my gosh, they're so cool, or oh my gosh, they're mid. So it was kind of interesting seeing that people are pretty divided on this one, in terms of like how good they look. I will say I definitely like upon seeing them in the stream, right? Like if you go back and watch my initial reaction and obviously watching you know, the like, you know, videos when they went up on Twitter. And I was not really like super impressed. I do think I will say I really like his active skill actually. I think it's really cool. But after doing the animation analysis video, which will be going up later today, by the way, so keep an eye out for that, shameless plug. But with that being said, I do like his animations a little bit better after taking a look at them. It's always interesting whenever I do those videos because, like, I either then get the perspective of, like, you know, sometimes looking at them more in depth like that changes my mind about how I feel about them. Because sometimes it's like, oh, well, you know, on the surface level, I don't really like it. And then when I look at it deeper, I kind of like have a better understanding of it. And a lot of the time it also helps to look at like the anime versus Dokkan comparison videos, where obviously people like Giad and iKevinX in the community, shout out to the boys, they make these videos where like they'll do the, you know, anime versus Dokkan, where it kind of shows the side by side, and that kind of helps give a little bit more perspective as to like why they did some of the choices that they did, for like some of the shots and how some of the stuff works and all that type of thing. So with that being said, right, I think it's interesting taking a look at him because it makes a little bit more sense why some of the things look the way they do. However, I still think that they're not like fantastic. I think they could be better, but I don't think that they're bad necessarily, right? Because obviously I think there's a big jurisdiction of between like an animation that's like actually bad or, you know, something like this where he's just kind of like okay, in my opinion, right? So I think for me right now, he's kind of like the middle of the road, I guess you would say. I think at the moment, he is probably like the I believe, let me double check actually. I think I would say he's the second worst of the year. However, that's also not fair to say considering we're only in March. So, you know, I can't really like say that, not like say it with confidence, right? But obviously, like I feel like that's not really fair to say that because obviously, you know, we're only like a couple units into the year. I still think, unfortunately, the boy Rose for me is on top in terms of being bad.
It's like this monthly Dokkan Fest is not as good as Anniversary Broly. What a loser.
Well, yeah, of course not, right? Like that one's pretty obvious, right? Like they're not going to be as good as like the Anniversary characters, but I don't know. Like I thought Frieza's animations were really good.
Frieza's animations look sick.
I really like those. That was like, bro, it was so funny because I know sometimes like I can be very critical of the animations, and I get comments all the time, like especially on Twitter, where people are like, "Oh, do you like anything?" And I'm like, "Well, listen, bro. The whole reason why I'm like critical of the game is because, first of all, I enjoy it. So you know, I enjoy like taking a deep dive into it, And not to mention, I know that they can do so much better because obviously we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
And not to mention, they make so much money that they should be doing better. You know, like any excuse is dwarfed by the fact that they make. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
We saw them hire like a new artist for Broly, right?
Yeah,
So, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
you know,
I wouldn't necessarily blame Akatsuki. Probably would be, you know, the people who are, you know, allocating money for them to spend, and then they're
right,
doing what they can.
exactly. I would say so. I think there needs to be less money going into the pockets of the man who's divvying up the money, and more money going into the animations. That's what I'm saying.
But
Yeah, because like with how much money they make, right? Like there's no excuse that every animation shouldn't just look like peak, in my opinion. But obviously that's not how
the
real life
anniversary
works.
made. There's like,
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, like you could, you know, fund like 10 families for a lifetime with that amount of money, like, and more.
Probably even more than 10. Like,
Yeah.
Probably way more than that, man. Like it's crazy how much money they made, how much they dwarfed every other anniversary as well. It's just like insane to think about.
This is obviously the highest grossing part two. We're talking about anniversary now, but it's like the highest grossing part two of an anniversary ever. Obviously, right?
Right.
What I would also say is, I feel like if we're comparing Vegeta to, because Saiyan Day is like, you know, it's treated like a special thing, but realistically, Saiyan Day is just another monthly Dokkan Fest.
That is true.
Yeah. So if we're comparing them to other Dokkan Fest TUR, like from last year, like let's say, I don't know, like if we're comparing them to, I don't know, Kale or like Turles or, you know, some of these other villains, I wouldn't say like he necessarily has better animations than them, because I can't really think of it at the top of my head. I know you don't like Kale, so that's why I brought it up. Right? Yeah. Like, you know, even like if we look at God Goku's animations last year, I feel like, you know, well, I would say God Goku's animations are definitely better. Like I don't think this Vegeta's animations are bad.
I would agree with that.
I like them personally. I think my only issue with Vegeta's animations, because like, you know, there's like some of the TURs that like don't even have their mouth moving, or like there's no flowing hair.
True.
Vegeta has like flowing hair. He has like
the gammas on their finish skill. Please, I want to rip my hair out.
And then like he's actually like moving his mouth when he talks. Right. I love the intro and not the intro, the transformation animation, and how the rocks are floating up when he transforms. Like there's some good detail in there.
Yeah.
I personally I'm not really like, his KO screen looks nice. Like ish. I'm not really a fan of it. I think they should have just gone with closer to what the manga was and what we know the Prime Battle LR Vegeta.
Yeah.
Like that KO screen, I think it looks so much better than the
Funny enough, I think it was actually Proton. Shout out to the GOAT who pulled up to my stream yesterday, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't like Vegeta's KO screen." I was like, "Yeah, I mean his face looks a little bit weird, but I'm pretty sure that's how it was in the anime." And then when I looked at the side by side, right, I was like, "Yeah, they literally got the face 1-to-1." So that one, unfortunately, is just an anime L, because the anime just had his face look a little goofy.
That's why I said they should go with the manga one, because you know sometimes the anime has like these weird shots, and it's like I feel like his chin is like really long.
It is really long. Like that, it's interesting too, because sometimes it's what they choose to do. Like even in this animation, the actual like big bang attack, like if you like screen cap it, where he's like, you know, he has his hand extended, you know, the shot like in his animation where it like pans from his hand and then it goes to his face. The face that they used for that was the manga. They didn't use like the face that he makes in the anime, because the face that he makes in the anime looks a little bit different. So it's interesting to see, like, sometimes it seems like they've been doing a lot more references from the manga lately, which is pretty cool.
Wait, it was this references to the manga, not the anime, right?
Then, there are some things that are a little bit closer to the anime, but it's like they kind of mix it, right? Like they just mix it together.
The reason why they chose the anime one this time is because the Big Bang Attack of Vegeta was from the manga, right? His KO screen, or what? The Prime Battle LR, right? So it's like they probably didn't want to do the same reference twice, and they're like, "Well, we used the manga one already, so let's use the anime."
I can respect that, right? Well, they kind of did both, because the KO screen is the anime, and then the Big Bang is the manga. So, like, I don't know. They just, I think they also, because that is a good point. I'm talking about
specifically the KO screen, right? Where it's like screen was like already used the manga version, so they were like, "Yeah, let's use the anime version and get that in the game."
Yeah,
which I think is fine too.
Yeah,
Which
I, mean,
I think
I like it.
would
I think it
prefer the
looks.
manga version.
Yeah.
I like it. Obviously, it's not the same, so it's kind of weird that it is different. But obviously, now you said about it having the two different references. So even though it's not the same as the one we have, I do still quite like it. I think it looks pretty cool. It's kind of striking that it is different, but yeah, I didn't know that, to be honest, about the it being from the other reference thing. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's always a lot of kind of things like that, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, it just makes them like, you know, they have since they have all these different references, it's the type of thing where like they may as well use it and then make the same character a little bit different, right? Because obviously, you know, at some point Dokkan is going to reuse like characters or moments that we've already gotten.
yeah.
But you know, like, so because of the fact that we have multiple things to take from, right, that kind of allows for you know, a little bit more like, you know, just different looking cards even for the same scene. So I do think that that is pretty cool. You know, I think before you know, the last thing I'll say on this like segment before we move on is the only, I think, like two things that I'm disappointed with on him is something that isn't there. So it's nothing like wrong with the card itself necessarily. The one thing that I am kind of disappointed that he didn't have was the voice line of the, you know, tell me, do androids experience fear? Because obviously, like, that line is super iconic and really cool.
Dub, right?
Yeah.
I think
Hey, shout out to the title of the podcast episode.
Yeah, sir. Like, you know, obviously, right? It's iconic enough to be the title, right? But like,
oh, I didn't
know.
even notice the title.
But like,
was that?
the other thing I will say that is kind of a shame, and honestly, I think this one might not be as much of a case of the like Dokkan or like Vegeta at fault. I don't even know how you would like quantify that, but I think it's more so honestly the L of course the funny stinky sprites, because unfortunately the scene, which obviously is one of the most iconic for Vegeta's like first Super Saiyan, where he, you know, grabs 19's wrists and then he like rips his hands off, right? He's doing like squats on his face basically. Like that whole scene, right, is obviously super iconic and people really like that scene. And so that I was like really hoping that that would have been included. So it is a bit of a shame that it's not included. However, again, like I was saying with the sprites, it would look so strange, right? Like it would just look really weird.
Yeah, I have to say, one thing I do give them credit for, I think I mentioned it, it was either during the Dokkan Now or it might have been during the showcase, because obviously you get to see the animation more, like over and over again. I do really like the decision that they made, is rather than having these close-ups of the enemy sprites where you can see the enemy sprite sort of like head to toe, and that shows just how like blocky it is. I quite like the fact that they have those couple of moments during like the combo that he does where they just focus in on like the point of impact, so it's just like his foot, and you can only see like the bit of the color of the sprite around them, so you can't really tell that the sprite looks really bad because it's just focusing on like where his foot is.
I can always tell
like,
me. I got my eye open,
but it doesn't look as bad as some of the other ones.
I agree with you.
Yeah, by focusing specifically on the point of impact as like the whole frame of the shot, like I think some of that looks a lot better than some of the ones where you do see the whole enemy sprite, and then you can really see like the difference between that and the character that's actually attacking. So yeah, I do think that is quite good. So yeah, Vegeta looks very, very good. We know the gist of his banner. Obviously, the image that they showed in the data download didn't really tell us anything new, because we always get the last couple of Saiyan Day characters. We always get the Tanabata LR come back. So it'll be interesting to see who some of the other units on there will potentially be, because I know last year Raditz was randomly snuck on there and he's not a Saiyan Day character. So we'll see. But
I mean, we do know some of his banner, right? And we have, I guess, if you want to talk about the banner right now.
Well, not in huge detail. I was going to say we have that thing from the data download, which is just the image that shows obviously the side banner unit, Godku, Majin Vegeta, and then Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Which, like I say, we kind of expected they would all be on there anyway.
Right.
And I'm thinking Super Saiyan 3 Goku will be on there. So that's
potentially
6 out of 8 of the units on the banner.
To be fair, Broly probably will still be on there, because I think last year's Saiyan Day banner, they went back at least like 4 Saiyan Day units, so Int Broly will probably be on there as well.
It was
Yeah.
they went back 2 years, so it should be God Goku and Majin Vegeta, which we see in the banner.
Yeah, I think
'Cause I know because
last year Broly and Bardock were on there. So this year Broly will
Bardock
probably
is
be on
same
there,
day,
but not
huh?
Bardock.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
Bardock is a
Broly
second
will
unit.
be there. God,
Yeah.
I'm so silly. So yeah,
But
and
not
then it's just
Bardock.
like one other unit. It
Yeah.
could be like
I'm not Bardock.
Hopefully it'll
In
be
that-
hopefully
in
it'll
that case,
just
you know what the
be
banner is.
a good
I
unit
mean,
for his team, but we'll have to see.
I think I think the banner looks pretty nice, right? And overall, there's value there. And anniversary is still a couple months away for a global, and I would assume if a lot of people are skipping for anniversary,
Oof, it's a
then
tough
you
choice.
can afford to throw a couple stones, right?
Yeah.
There could also be like this global first summon discount that they sometimes do, even though at the same time. Good job, global.
Yeah, I mean, there probably will be ticket packs because there was for
Yeah.
God Goku, and there pretty much is for every banner now
Yeah.
for global. So the
Yeah.
ones you can purchase at least. But yeah, speaking of good units on his team and a unit we know who's going to be on the banner, we do have his banner unit. Of course, customary, everyone in the community has their specific characters where they have to basically get a shout out every time that character gets mentioned. I always appreciate people tagging me anytime there's any Super 17 related posts and stuff like that. So shout out to our boy and previous podcast guest, Toon Rami, because the side banner unit, finally, our boy Toon has his Saiyan Day King Vegeta. Now, he is, of course, the banner unit and not the headliner, but let's be honest, that's probably the best he was going to get. But I think he's pretty good. I did the showcase to him a little bit earlier. Now, the interesting thing, I started to say to Minato about it before we started, but rather than go into a huge amount of detail about it, I did the showcase for him on the private server earlier. And because we have the data download on both versions of the game, these units in the private server have all of their passives and everything in English because we have the English data packs for them. But his passive, at least the way it's shown, is different to the passive that's shown in the information that Global tweeted out earlier today. Because obviously they tweeted out the full details for Vegeta, both forms and King Vegeta, showing the in-game menus all in English, so you could read the passive, the super attack effect, all of that stuff. And so one thing I will say is if his passive works the way the Global post says that it does, then I think he has the potential to be quite good. If it's the way it's listed on the private server, then he's nowhere near as good. Because the major thing, and it's something that people have pointed out as a bit of a criticism about his design, is that the information on the global tweet says that when he performs a super attack, if you have a Vegeta on the team, he gets an extra 90% attack and defense, and then he gives all allies an extra 3 key and 30% attack and defense. And as a lot of people have pointed out, it's kind of weird for a character who's probably going to be a slot 3 floating unit to have an on super support buff that isn't multi-turn, because then it's not really going to be applicable to anybody outside of himself. But that extra 90% on the stats does go a long way to making his performance better. And on the passive that's shown on the private server, it doesn't have that whole bit at the end. It literally just says extra 30% attack and defense to allies if there's a Vegeta on the rotation. So that is a significant difference, because post super attack, he's an orb changer, he can get damage reduction. If he has the full passive that the global tweet says that he has, he could get up to having, I think it's around 600k defense with 36% damage reduction. But if he doesn't have that extra bit, then we're talking more around 400k with the damage reduction, which is nowhere near good enough realistically for the meta that we have at the moment. So Minato, I don't know if you tried him out when you did your Vegeta showcase. What are your thoughts on this King Vegeta and his kit?
Honestly, I forgot about him, so I didn't even bring him in that showcase.
Damn.
What was it called?
Ripped
I was like, yeah, I forgot about him. He seems like he's a decent character. Obviously, I think that's just a private server error, which is, why. I don't even...
Yeah.
The global post. So that is
Yeah.
part of him.
My understanding would be that, even when I did the showcase for him, he is actually getting that buff. It's just not shown listed in the passive, because That is how it
Yeah.
should be in the data. That's what Annie was saying in the chat as well.
Maybe.
But the problem is
That's
there's
what
no
it
way
could
to
be.
know for sure because it's an on super buff and we don't get to see their defense like once you've started the course of the turn. So it's hard to
I mean,
know.
you could just assume that it's like there, right?
Yeah,
But assumptions are never good.
it's true.
I mean, that's why we just wait for them to be in game, and then we know 100%.
True.
Yep.
But I mean, they're in the data anyway, so I assume it's just like it's probably that they just put the translations in there themselves manually, and they forgot that part of the past. So that could be it. But
Yeah.
who knows? What I would say is, again, as a unit, he seems like he'll be nice, right? 180% start of turn, basically 180% on super if there's Vegeta on rotation. Greatly raised attack and defense is nice. He provides 60% support to Vegeta characters, basically, which is good, I think. And then if you somehow are able to get him in slot 1, then he'll be providing an extra 30% multiplicative support. But that's the one thing I don't like. I think, it's like, why does he have to super attack for that buff?
Yeah, it's
I
weird.
think that's the dumb thing.
I think
I feel like it should be for 2 turns.
yeah,
Or
if it was, then it would make a lot more
start turn.
sense. Yeah, because the
Like
only
it-
thing you can really use it for, which I think is interesting, is he links really well with the new Vegeta when he is still in base. They share 6 out of 7 links. So if on your starting rotation you have like Vegeta and King Vegeta, if you don't have a Goku, that you probably like, maybe you have a Goku on the team that you want to keep around with Vegeta so he gets that extra buff from the passive for the extra super, but you don't have him on the first turn, so you've got to float one of the 2 units off regardless. You can keep King Vegeta on the rotation. He links really well with the new Vegeta who's going to be in slot 1, is giving him the support that he gives him. It makes a crazy difference, that extra 40% and having those extra links. Like, yeah, in the video I did for the King Vegeta, he does okay in that video, but you can see the difference compared to when I ran Vegeta without him. Like, he goes crazy with that extra support. And once that Vegeta gets good support units around him, his numbers go like through the roof. Like Super Saiyan, we're talking like triple super turn. Yeah, triple super turn going over like 20 to 22 mil, like super attacks, like ridiculous. So he can be pretty good. His obviously biggest issue will just be, even with all of that defense, like if he is at 600k with 36% damage reduction, he's still going to die to like the biggest boss super attacks. But at the end of the day, as we've talked about many times in the meta when we're using different types of units on teams, if a unit is there to be like a floating support unit, most of the time that means if you're unlucky enough that they're the one that gets tagged by a super, they're probably going to die. But he will be tanking most normals after supering, which is good. And of course, as a floating support unit, his best build is probably just give him full dodge and then throw the rest into additional. And then, yeah, he can be pretty decent. So, Theo, his animations are very interesting. I do like the fact that we get the... it's funny when we have these characters now, gone are the days where not only did we have things like the basic as Kamehameha, but like the background was just completely black. Now we have full-on settings and locations. So we could be fighting, the example I gave on my video earlier was we could be fighting UI Goku in the Tournament of Power arena, and then all of a sudden we're in a corridor on a spaceship. But I do think that is kind of cool. So yeah, what do you think of King Vegeta's animations?
Yeah, so they're actually really good. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty impressed with how he looked. Funny enough, I saw some people saying that they were better than Vegeta's animations, which I was like, wow, even I ain't going that far, bro. But like, nah, they definitely cooked with making him look very, very anime-esque. I think especially that like initial shot where he's running forward. I was like, dang, am I watching the anime right? This looks really good. And they did a bunch of stuff where, obviously like they had, like you said, like obviously it's in the corridor because it's in that scene where, King Vegeta's running down that hallway. They had, like the very anime-esque and of course referencing that scene, those backgrounds, right, where it's kind of like the purple lines, obviously a very like anime type of thing to imply like, oh my gosh, something intense is happening on the screen. I think they did a really good job with it. I think the effects look good. The key blast looks pretty good as well. I love that end shot where it's kind of like the far shot of the corridor. And then, you just have him standing there as like the light kind of dissipates. Very, very good. But I think the other thing that's cool is with this guy, they also did a thing where I actually quite like when they do this, because obviously it just like kind of gives them more options for characters to make. Is that one of the attacks is like King Vegeta throws a punch at Frieza, but then the punch doesn't actually land on Frieza. However, in the actual like animations for him in the Dokkan card, the punch obviously does land on the enemy. And they have actually done that a couple times now, where they've had like an attack where basically in the like anime or manga or whatever, the attack misses and it's not actually successful, but then in the like Dokkan super attack version of it, the attack is successful, and then like they continue it into something else. So I think that is cool from the perspective of like they're being creative in that way of like thinking about it. Okay, how can we take this animation where realistically there maybe isn't much to it, or it's just like oh, the attack didn't actually land, and then take it so that we can make it into a character that actually is doing an attack, right? And kind of like then merging it into another thing and keeping it going to make like a fluid animation. I think that like bit of creativity on the Dokkan team's part is always really cool to see. So that was really nice to see for that. And honestly, like I'm glad that we just have like one good looking King Vegeta. Like, dude, obviously we have a super. I think genuinely the Super Strike was the last King Vegeta we had.
It's the only
right?
one,
So,
right? Apart from like random R's or SRs.
Yeah,
right? And it's funny because
which wild. Honestly.
He does more obviously, and he has like 2 of his own specials. But you think about how many Bardock cards there are, and how many games and stuff he's been in where they've given him extra forms and all this kind of stuff. And really, all we have for King Vegeta is, I mean, most people know at this point, but obviously King Vegeta is Dark Mask King from Heroes,
right?
But that's it. That's like the only other alternative, like King Vegeta. Whereas we have all of this Bardock stuff. He does arguably do more in the story and have his own specials and everything, but still, it's nice to actually have a decent King Vegeta card. Like I said, I never expected him really to get like to be the headliner of a Saiyan Day, but it is kind of cool to. I mean, it is cool to see him get a.
Because we got the Super Strike Awakening. Oh yeah, his Super Attack is horrible.
The Super Strike one was okay, because the Super Strike cards, I feel like they've all been either pretty good, okay, or terrible. There's no like anywhere in between, right? And King Vegeta was one of those ones that was okay.
I would say he's basically just like an upgraded version of that King Vegeta. What I do like is that he does provide 36% chance to crit to Vegeta. Usually it's like that's not that big of a deal, right? Who cares? But Vegeta is one of like the first characters in 36, because
does his support stack?
Yeah, it's Pure Saiyans and Vegeta's family, not Pure Saiyans or, so it's 60% support, like I said. And then he provides 36%. That's why Vegeta looks so good.
Yeah, he gets so much, 16%. But like, that's crazy.
But I think that's good, because Vegeta is like the first characters in like a very long time that doesn't have crit in his passive. He only has crit on the active skill for the turn. So I think this guy providing the crit, it actually is useful.
Doesn't he have? Doesn't he have a high chance to crit under some certain? Oh no, wait. I think I'm thinking of Goku. Actually, never mind. Super Saiyan 3 Goku, who we're going to talk about soon. Yeah.
Yeah, but Vegeta himself does not have crit in his passive at all. So I think that's a situation where he's providing something that could be useful for this Vegeta.
He actually does feel like one of those units for the first time in a long time. I think Future Gohan was similar. No, Beast Gohan is also very similar. When one of those characters comes out that like, on paper at least, and I know we've tried them out a little bit, but it's like he's so good defensively. He's not one of these characters that you need to give loads of dodge in his passive, especially because he gets a lot of buffs by being hit. So you can pour, because he does infinitely stack and he gets a lot of raises on his transformed super as well. You just go like full mix of additional and crit on him, right? And then the amount of damage that he can do is pretty crazy. And then the active skill turn, I mean, the fact that you could use his active skill has pretty good conditions as well, because he has to get hit 3 times, or the enemy at 80% or less HP. So you could be in situations where you transform into the Super Saiyan Vegeta, and you could just use the active skill straight away because the enemy's on less than 80% health. And then that turn where he's getting the guaranteed crits, if you get that RNG with like the supers from his passive, like I said, with support from King Vegeta, he's throwing out like 22 million attack stats that are all guaranteed crit. And yeah, he just does so much damage. So I think King Vegeta is very good. The
cooking.
fact that he supports Pure Saiyans as well means it's very interesting for some of these other team builds, right? Because him just supporting Vegeta's family, I think, would have been a bit too restrictive. But because of some of those characters you can throw on Vegeta's team, especially on JP, like Broly. Yeah, like Broly, like, you know, so those characters getting that support from King Vegeta as well, I think is quite good. So yeah, I think he's pretty solid overall. Good banner unit. Hopefully we're all able to pull both him and Vegeta, and good luck to everybody else out there as well. When
I think I have like, how many stones do I have? I have like 850 stones or so.
Ooh,
I still actually have.
Ooh.
Well, okay, to be fair,
I just got off anniversary.
I was about to say, yeah, only 850, but to be fair, it's right after the anniversary, so that's pretty good. Although
I only have 200, but to be fair, I was summoning till the very, very end.
I still have some of these missions I got to do for the anniversary. Like the Blue Zone missions and stuff. So I haven't done any of the content for the Frieza celebration, not gonna lie. So I could probably grind up like another like 200 stones. So
yeah, stone count in the chat. Let us know, guys. I've been saving for a while. I got very lucky on the first few banners of the year. Like I pulled Trunks and the Tournament of Power androids within like 200 or 300 stones. And then I pulled the LR Ribrian trio off the tickets. So I currently have 2,070 stones. So
funny.
But that's of course for us. We're saving for the anniversary, so it's like I've got a lot of stones, but I'm not using all of them. I'm not using all of them. Yeah.
The thing with me is, I actually got super lucky in the Frieza banner. I got him in like, I think it was 450 stones, and then I got him like 300 stones, and then I was like, well, I still have like 700 stones to use. So I went I did an extra like 4 multis, and I got 2 extra dupes. So he's actually 79%.
Nice.
Yeah. And I got the door with 2 copies. I got super lucky in that Frieza banner.
That's risky.
That's right, dude. seven. Because I only was gonna do a couple more, and I did like 4 more, and I got 2 copies. I was gonna stop regardless.
Yeah.
Because I got him so early, I'm like, well, you know what I mean? Like you do that sometimes where you get him so early and you're like,
yeah, well, I do that. Even on characters where I know I'm not going to summon a lot, if I pull them super quickly, then I'll chuck a couple more multis at it to see if I can get a banner, but a dupe, but only like up to a certain number, right? But
I also think Frieza, like we can see a lot of Namek Saga stuff this year, hopefully. So Frieza could potentially be looking really good. So I'm glad I got him with the dupes, but yeah, Frieza's powerful, but let's talk about Saiyan Day now.
Yeah. So very, very good. So the banner's looking interesting. The unit's looking good. Before we move on to Super Saiyan 3 Goku, we won't spend a huge amount of time on this, but if you had to give a snap decision for both Global and JP, I guess, to consider, because Global does have the anniversary to think about, would you summon on this banner? For what would you say to Global and JP players? So Theo, I know you're a big fan of Beast Gohan, so I know the Global version of Theo would be wanting to save every single stone. But
Global. Well, funny that you say that on my Global account. So I did summon on Rose just because I was like, final Global first. I kind of want to summon on it for the culture, right? So I put like 300 stones on the banner, but after that, I'm going to be just saving up on Global until the anniversary starts. I'm going to be honest. I don't know, man. I know this is a bit like funny to say, I guess, or something, especially coming from like us who we summon all the time on the game.
Yeah.
I honestly might just save up my stones until either worldwide or even just Dragon Ball Heroes this year. I might not summon on anything, to be honest with you. I think I may be a changed man this year in 2024 when it comes to Dokkan summons, because I don't know. I was having, and maybe this is would lead into a greater conversation we could have in another episode, because this could be a whole nother topic. But I was looking at it and I was like, dang, Gohan Beast is strong, right? These anniversary units are strong, and all things considered, right? There is unless they come out with some insanely cracked unit, there is no way that any unit this year is going to power creep them. Even looking at the worldwide units last year, sadly, I mean, maybe Zamasu a little bit less so, but the boys kind of fell off heavy, right? They're not terrible, but they're definitely not up there. And so I was thinking, like, if they're just gonna keep doing this, low key, maybe I'll just save, because of course, we got to summon on heroes, obviously.
Of course,
but,
yeah,
of course, right? It doesn't matter how good they are for that. But besides Dragon Ball Heroes, honestly, I might just like be on a saving spree. So I might not even summon on this banner, to be honest with you. I know, crazy.
It's so crazy for Global as well, because I'll go to you, Minato, next as well. But like the big thing for Global is there's two things really. It's the anniversary upcoming and the fact that, as we've already discussed, like we do have units like Kefla, but his team is just not as good on Global by any stretch. And the one thing, like I've seen people say that his leader skill is bad for Global, which is, like I say, it's kind of true, right? His team
Vegeta?
is a bit janky. Yeah, his team is lacking some of the really cool units that are going to come out for the anniversary. But the problem with that is if you skip him because his team is bad now, then the anniversary comes out, you pull all the units that make his team better, but then you still don't have him, so you can't use him. So it's like it's kind of like how the Tournament of Power androids, when we found out that all of those Universe 7 units were all going to get easy A's and get massive buffs, then for global players it was like, well, if you summon them now and you get them, you're going to have them for when that team goes super crazy. So for me personally, I am a big Vegeta fan. I would be summoning regardless. His team will still be, I mean, you got to think about on global, there's barely any, like we don't have the difficult content anyway. So whilst his team isn't as crazy as it is on JP, I mean, the only like content we have on global at the moment is like Fusions of Zamasu and Omega, and his team will be good enough to beat those events. And then once Broly and Gogeta drop in part 1, if you pull both of them, you'll be able to then use Vegeta's team all throughout the anniversary for all the content. So I'm definitely excited for him. But Minato, what do you think? Especially more focused on the JP side. What do you think people should summon for this guy, or what are you thinking?
So I know a lot of us are like off the for JP, like the next big thing, like for LRs is Tanabata in July, right? That's the next Dokkan Fest LR. And so I mean, if you don't really care about anything besides Dokkan Fest LRs and you're like a huge Vegeta fan, especially, I would say go for it, right? Not that big of a deal, but I know a lot of people don't have many stones to spend in the first place post anniversary, right? So I think it's a good idea to still skip and save regardless.
Yeah.
Now, I would say as well is one thing to consider. The Saiyan Day character probably won't return until like we saw God Goku last year and Kale did not return until October, which was the Tournament of Power Androids. That's when they returns. Sometimes the Saiyan Day unit returns in what? August. So, yeah, August, like Super Trunks' banner time frame. Because I remember like Imp Broly returned on the STR Super Vegeta banner, right? And that was the Dokkan Fest right before Worldwide. So it's really dependent on when he may return. So I just think that I recommend probably skipping and saving. If you're a big Vegeta fan or you like this Vegeta in general, this is the first Dokkan Fest he's gone in 2 years.
True.
I would say I'm not sure if I expect him to get another one this year, honestly. It'd be cool, but let's not like pin our hopes up because they usually hop back and forth pretty wildly, unless it's like a Goku, right? Then we're gonna get tons of Gokus.
Yeah. I mean,
or like duo cards where Vegeta's in the card.
Yeah. Or it's a Goku and Vegeta. I mean, I think always like I don't know if either of you are for or against this opinion, but I don't know. I think in terms of me, I'm always a proprietor of like summon for what you want, summon for what you enjoy, right? Like even if it's your favorite character and they're not great,
really good too.
Summon. Oh yeah, well he is fantastic, which is great. Obviously, I've been seeing Vegeta fans crying on the timeline on how good he is today. But like, even if a character isn't good, which thankfully Vegeta is, I think it's just like, bro, summon for what you want. It's just the best way to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I said
another thing I want to point out. Actually, no, I forgot what I was going to say now. Dang it. Well, I mean, there's full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. You can grab him with coins. Right? I think he's actually a little better on JP right now, just because there's a lot longer content, so you could utilize the like full power transformation, which is I think still pretty good with that nice heal and everything that it brings with it. But dang, I forgot what else I was going to say.
Well, I was just going to say, to like add on to what Theo said, I've said this many times before. I'm pretty sure I've said it on the podcast before, especially when we've had people ask questions in the chats and everything. Like, I definitely agree that like you should summon for whatever you want. And I say this a lot when I do my, like every time there's a banner, I do my summon or skip videos. And I try and stress this like in the videos is you have to, there's like the two, you have to keep the same, I guess the way to put it is you have to like keep the same energy, right? Because it's like you can summon for whatever you want. Especially now, if you use the global player as the example, you can summon for whatever you want. If you want to go ham for Vegeta, then you want to go ham for Dragon Fist Goku. Then you really like Frieza, so you want to go ham for him. And then when the anniversary comes, then you're one of those people on Twitter that's like, oh, I didn't pull Gogeta or Broly. It's like, well, you know, you can't have it both ways, right? So that's the way I look at it.
Get every unit.
Yeah, you summon for whatever you like, but normally when we give advice about summoning, it's because, you know, if you don't spend money on the game or if you only spend a little bit, you kind of want to get the most value out of your summons. And if you just summon on every single banner, then, you know, when the big banners come, they're going to have some of these big units that don't come back very often or are some of the best units in the game. And you're potentially not going to be able to pull them. But it is all RNG at the end of the day, of course. I mean, there'll be people who, you know, could you imagine you hear the nightmare stories, right? Like there's people who don't summon for like 6 months and then you get to the anniversary and they drop like 4,000 stones and they don't get the unit. But the funny thing to think about really as well is kind of like the suffering from success meme is you think about the fact there'll be somebody on the opposite end of that scale where you force yourself to not summon on anything for the whole year. And then you pull like Broly, Gogeta, Beast Gohan and the Gammas in like 200 stones each or something. And you're like, oh, I didn't summon on anything else this year but I didn't need to. I've still got like 3,000 stones left. But, But yeah, I mean that's the luckier end of the scale that we don't really ever see. But but yeah, Vegeta's very, very good. I think he's worth summoning on for global if you want to have like, I mean, he's undoubtedly like, unless we talk about Kefla factoring in, even though she's an easy A to URs, it's a little bit different. But I mean, he comes out as the best Dokkan Fest exclusive unit in the game on global, at least for TURs. But as we say, global not exactly experiencing the craziest level of content or anything at the moment in terms of difficulty. So Vegeta will come out, be super, super good. But the important thing to remember is like when the anniversary does come to global and all that new content starts coming out, like his team will be very good for that. It'll be a lot of fun to use. So it's down to you really. Summon if you want, but
those those super the Super Saiyan team stonks only going up as the year is going up, it seems. Ever since the Super Saiyan trio, seemingly stonks for Super Saiyans have just been going up. So,
and they've got another good slot 1 unit now in Vegeta, because that was one of the big problems with that 200% Super Saiyan team, is just not having a really good slot 1 unit after Birdku kind of aged out. Godku has the potential to like steal the orbs from the Super Saiyans. So yeah, having Vegeta there for slot 1 is really, really good for that team as well.
Only had a really good Trunks character. Unfortunately, I can't think of any.
Yeah, a really good slot 1 Trunks would be nice, but
just a Trunks in general, especially a Super Saiyan Trunks team. We need a good one.
It's Minato baiting the Sword of Hope fans in the. I mean, he's good on Vegeta's team. I used him on Vegeta's team.
I'm not talking about him.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say he's still okay, but
Sword of Cope, yes, sir.
No, that's Super Saiyan Trunks feature. We need a good Super Saiyan Trunks team. You know.
True.
I'm trying to remember who the last one was. Who was
I'm talking about how Super Trunks sucks.
Oh right. I mean, he kind of gets a bit of a buff with Vegeta though, right? Because we got more Android/Cell Saga characters. Vegeta's a slot 1 unit for him.
See, my favorite thing is that you could hide him on that team until he transforms, and then you use the Ghost Usher.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's not a bad idea, honestly.
Getting off track a little bit, but yeah, summon if you want. But beware, obviously. Big things are coming for Global, for JP. Unknown things are coming, but I mean, for both versions, Golden Week is not super far away. And we went last year from God Goku on Saiyan Day into 23rd World Tournament Goku and in Piccolo Jr. So we had some heavy hitters in this early quarter of the year sort of time frame, or early third of the year, I guess, if you include when Golden Week comes out. But yeah, these guys are all super good. One other unit that, of course, we got the details for after having been announced for both versions of the game, basically leading us to conclude we were getting the version update and the Super Easy A and all that kind of stuff on both versions at the same time, which is definitely very hype. We do, of course, have the first Super Easy A, which...
Let's go, baby.
You know, Pete, the way Dokkan chooses to name things, super good, right? We got the Extreme Z Awakening. Well, now we've got Super Extreme. It's not just extreme, boys. It's super extreme.
Extreme.
Super Extreme
bro,
Z
that
Awakening.
sounds like it sounds like something from like 90s marketing, bro. Super extreme. Like I don't know.
Super good. And speaking of marketing, I forgot to say this earlier, but just as a quick reminder, because I have failed to get it in there. A couple of people have dropped
the transition. Let's go.
I know, right? See, I'm trying to get in there, right? The smooth topic changes.
He's cooking.
We gotta get these in here. Shout out to the couple of people that did drop some super chats already. If you guys want to help support the podcast, if you do have any questions, any comments, any shout outs or anything like that you want us to read out, and you do want to help us to keep the lights on, as they say, keep the show going, all donations and super chats will be read out at the very end of the show after the trash take segment. So shout out to those of you guys who have put them in already. I did put a thing in the chat just to let you guys know they'd be read out at the end. But yeah, that'll be coming up at the end of the show. So always super appreciated. And you know what else is super Extreme Z Awakening. So
let's go.
There you go. Back on topic, just like that. So AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku, he was the first unit to receive an Easy A. He is now the first unit to receive a Super Easy A. Great. Hang on.
What happened?
Bro's alarm went off.
You know why? Because the podcast is an hour later now for UK time zone. That was my alarm reminding me to record the podcast episode.
Did you record it?
I did actually remember, yes.
I remember he did say it. Listen, chat, every time, bro, this man, because I'm the one who uploads the episodes to Spotify, like, every time he reminds himself to record it, and then at the end of the episode, it'll just be like, hey, Theo, I have something to tell you. I'm like, you forgot to record it, didn't you? And I'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, dang it.
I think Manato's making the same face as me.
Yeah, you just saw it.
Well, I guess Dr. Pritch is going to lose that bet, because I know I don't like to break from tradition, because we do read all the donations out at the end. But Dr. Pritch with the $100 super chat, who says, I bet you won't read this in the middle of the episode. Well, you just lost that bet, sir. But thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pritch.
Much appreciated. I'll read that at the end as well.
Thank you.
Funny,
crazy.
But yeah, big W's. Thank you, Dr. Pritch. So,
thank you.
Again, we'll read that out at the end as well, I imagine, because it will still be on the list. But
yeah.
Where was I? Super Easy A. Goku. First unit to get an Easy A, first unit to get a Super Easy A. When we were discussing Super Easy A's, I did say I thought that would be kind of a boring choice to just go for him because he was the first Easy A. I was hoping that maybe him being picked might have some relevance to like there being a new Super Saiyan 3 unit coming out or something like that. But I mean, it is fitting for him to be the first unit that they picked. So in terms of like, I know obviously he doesn't have new animations to talk about, and his animations are not particularly crazy in general, right? So Theo, tell us a little bit, when it comes to Super Easy A's, I think people had this problem with Easy A's in general anyway, is these older units are getting updated to be used again. But of course, some of them don't have the best animations. But of course, the Dragon Fist has been a bit hit or miss with animations in general, right?
Man.
What are your thoughts about it?
So I think I will say, in terms of the animation department, right? Like, I do think it is a little bit unfortunate that they don't, as I honestly feel like the Super Easy A's, right, was kind of like their last chance to give these old units a like fresh coat of paint in the animation department. Where like this was kind of like their last opportunity to like really give like a meaningful update to some of these super old characters, right? Because obviously like some of the older characters, right, they still hold up a little bit, right? They still got a little bit of juice in them, but some of them, like, this guy, obviously they're really, really, really old, right? And so, it's a very simple animation. So I feel like it is a little bit unfortunate from that perspective that, to me, this tells me that they really don't care or don't want to, update those older animations. Now, I know that I did see some people on twitter.com talking about how like it would be kind of cool if they did something where they had like an on-off switch for like classic animations and like updated animations, where like if they gave this guy like some kind of updated animation, right, then what they could do is that they could have something where like, oh, you could, you know, have like the old animation be there if you really wanted to see it, right, but then you could also have like the new one there. Obviously that is like a little bit
I'm just
far-fetched,
bring in
you know?
my idea again that I always bring up all the time.
Yeah.
Let you choose the super attack animation as long as the character has the exact same name.
Yeah,
So-
that would be cool.
Super Saiyan 3 Goku, you could choose the LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku animation. You could choose the STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku super attack animation, right? Or maybe it has to be the same super attack itself too, right? But just so like you could have the new animations in there, and then you could choose like
Yeah.
as long as you own both characters. So it's like, okay, it'd be better than just like being stuck with the old one. I feel like I think like the novelty of it is nice, but
Right.
it makes sense why they wouldn't want to at the same time. So.
Well, it's, you know, it's resources and something they can't make as much money off
Yeah,
of. So,
because I guess
you know.
also, I suppose, Theo, you dive into the details of the animations all the time and stuff, but I suppose you have to, I guess, think about the fact that the animations of some of the newer units very often for some people are part of kind of like the selling point for them, right? So then if they're just letting you throw, I mean, like Minato said, if they had a system where you had to own it already, kind of like a transmog system in an RPG or something, it kind of defeats that problem. But they want these animations to be on like the new shiny units so that people will summon for them. But yeah, I think something where they, like, I think you're right, is that they absolutely could have used that opportunity to give them some kind of update.
Because like they did it with Gohan and Majin Vegeta, like randomly, only those two guys, right? They gave them those updates, which, to be fair, I don't think Majin Vegeta necessarily like needed it as much, even though his animation was old, right? It wasn't really like, it didn't have like a problem with it, whereas Gohan's obviously had the funny PNG walk that everybody always talked about, you know? So
like bouncing sprite, that was dude, that was so funny. It's like
so
literally
goofy.
they just took a still picture of this man, and it's like, right, it's time for me to super attack.
Yep, bop, bop, bop.
And that's it. Like, but that's the thing, is when they did it for Vegeta, that kind of, I think a lot of people, maybe, you know, you guys might have felt the same way. Like you said, he didn't really need his to be updated. So when they did his one as well, one of the things that crossed my mind was like, oh, okay, so like in the future, when some of these like older LRs are getting easy A's and stuff, they're gonna update their super attack animations. That's really cool, because like you say, for Gohan he really did need it, but Vegeta didn't really. So the fact they did it, it's like, oh, okay, cool, they're gonna maybe make this a regular thing for some of these older units. And then they did
that's why it was so confusing. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know why they did it for those, because I remember we were talking about like when those guys were like when those units were getting easy A's and everything, and during that time we were like, all right, which of the 70% LRs is going to be next, like, is one of the 100% LRs going to get it, right? And then like nothing came of it. So I think obviously, right, like the final thing that I'll say about this before I throw it back over to you is like, obviously, right, it makes sense from the perspective of they can't really like make money from it because it's not something new that they can sell as much. But I think that the only really unfortunate thing, honestly, is for like newer players, basically, because like I think you hit the nail on the head where like having these older super attacks is cool for the novelty of it, right? And I enjoy, from time to time getting that little bit of a nostalgia kick, right? Seeing the old, essay on the screen. But I do think for newer players, honestly, it might be the most like, I don't want to say detrimental, because I don't think it's that like serious of an issue, but like it is definitely like for newer players, I would think it would be a little bit more like off-putting, because it's like, think about it, right? You're downloading the game in 2024 and you're seeing all these crazy animations, right, that look like they're almost like ripped right out of the anime, right? and then you know happen to like pull on an older banner or like a ticket banner or whatever, something like that, right? One of these older units, right? And then you see, you know, for example, like Super Saiyan 3 Goku's super attack, right? The AGL one, and you go, oh, what is that? You know, because like you're maybe somebody, you know, who like doesn't keep up with the game, or, you know, obviously doesn't keep up with it like to the point we do, or maybe you just downloaded it off the App Store, right? And, you know, you're, you know, just like, you know, playing the game just to play it, and you know you don't obviously know the nitty-gritty details of the game like we do, and so I would think for some people, right, that might just be the case where people would you know, see that sort of thing and be like, yikes, you know, this is a stinky animation, right? So I almost wonder if in that regard, right, for some people it would either like I would think that it, obviously people were, you know, intelligent enough to obviously like read a unit's kit and be like, okay, this guy is good, right? So, you know, I'm going to use him on the team. I don't think it would necessarily be a case where somebody would be like, oh man, this guy's animations are so bad, I'm not using him, because obviously the kit is more important for the, you know, actual usage in an event, right? But I would think that, you know, some people might be kind of put off like that, you know, if they saw that. So I think from that perspective, it is honestly a little bit surprising, to me anyway, that they didn't like, you know, try and do anything like that just for, but maybe they just didn't think about that, right? Like maybe it's just not,
I can
you know, in their prerogative.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Like, it would be, I guess for some people it'd be kind of jarring if you're a newer player, to the sense that, like, you know, let's say you started now on global because you heard all the hype about the anniversary, but the anniversary's kind of finished. So you're like, oh, I'm going to start playing this game, and I might save up, you know, Beast Gohan's coming to the global version in July. You do some summons on, you know, once you farmed a bunch of the quest mode, you pull, well, he's not on his team. I was going to say you pull Vegeta, you pull some of these other new units. And then, whether Goku's on the banner or not, whether we get another red stone, because I imagine it would be kind of cheeky if they took him off the redstone list because he now has the Super Easy A. But
that would be whack.
But yeah, like imagine getting him as a newer player. You've seen like Vegeta's animations, you've seen like, you know, you've seen clips of like Broly and Gogeta's animations upcoming. And then you're like, oh, apparently this Super Saiyan 3 Goku is one of the like better units in the game now. I'm gonna put him on my team as well. And then you see his super attack animation and you're like, wait, what? But, yeah, it's but yeah, so Super Easy A's, they have decided that the way this is going to work is there is no change to the maximum level, there's no change to the super attack level, there's no change to the super attack effect or the leader skill. So this is very interesting of a concept for Goku specifically, because of course his super attack has no raised attack and defense or anything like that. So he kind of Super Easy A, once they announced that that's how it was going to work, the whole thing was basically going to live or die by how much of a boost that they gave to the passive, which is the only thing that changes. And oh boy, did they change his passive. It went from being basically one line of text to being something like 20 lines of text or something. So Minato,
they gave my boy a whole Bible verse.
They did indeed. War and Peace is this man's passive. So Minato, in terms of the unit's kit, and I know you've tried them out, I have tried them out a bit as well. What are your thoughts on this Goku? How well did they do? Obviously, he's the first Super Easy A. Is he good again? Will we be using him in things like, you know, the anniversary content that came out for JP and will be coming out for global? How good is the first Super Easy A Super Saiyan 3 Goku?
I think Super Saiyan 3 Goku seems to be quite good. I am a pretty big fan of him overall. I think that they did him well. I've seen a lot of people not really like him that much. Personally, I think he's great as just like a third slot character where you're just throwing him on the team. He's guaranteed creating that first turn. You can do triple supers for like 16 to 15 mil, depending on what support is on rotation, right? You can get up to a mil, like 1.2 mil defense with a 30% chance to dodge. I think my only thing that I would fix about this guy really is give him just a flat 50% chance to dodge instead of 60% dodge before attacking, because you're pretty much never going to run this guy in slot 1 because he gets so much defense after he attacks. It's crazy how much defense he actually gets once he does attack. I like him though. I think it's interesting he's providing that 20% crit support for 3 turns,
Mm.
which is really, really it is interesting because that means like he has a 100% chance to crit on the first turn. The second turn he technically would have a 70% chance to crit given that he dodges. Then the turn after he would go back to just the 50% chance to crit. Then over time he loses his stats, so they kind of kept the essence of what the original unit was, where
Mm.
he technically slowly gets weaker over time in the battle, because he's like draining his power as a Super
Yep.
Saiyan 3 character.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they were going for. I personally think that's really dumb that they were like, yeah, for balance reasons, we're not going to update super attack effects. And the reason for that is because of, like, let's say, super easy A's in years from now that already greatly raise attack and defense and greatly lower attack, massively raise attack and defense and stuns, like super attack effects like that we're getting recently. They want to not have to worry about that in the future and say, oh, we're going to be updating super attack effects. But I think that it should be the opposite, where they decided in the future to not update super attack effects again. And it's just right now updating these characters because, I mean, even if they just add a greatly lower attack to this guy's super attack effect or give him a 1-turn defense raise, he'd be a lot better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's really it. I think for a super easy character, we don't know what they're going to set for the tone for super easy characters. We don't know if they're ever going to be on par with the actual characters released that year. Maybe for super easy A's, they're thinking of them, okay, well, this is a 2015 character. We're going to make them good, but we're not going to make them top tier. We're just going to make them relevant again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So until we get more super easy characters, I can't 100% say, like, is this guy like 100% a failure, or is he just going to be in line with what other super easies are going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, though, I think he's still good. Easy 2Rs right now in a huge, like, very bad mess right now post 9th anniversary. But this guy, I think, can perform well in the post 9th anniversary world. So I like him. I think they did a good job overall.
Yeah, he definitely seems very, very interesting. I tried him out as well. It's funny, we talked about it briefly before the episode, but we didn't want to get into it before we were actually, on the episode to talk about it with you guys here. But I think it's interesting because I think he is kind of useful as a slot 1 unit sometimes because he has that extra dodge chance before he super attacks. The big difference, of course, is that post supering, he is, especially if he's gotten a dodge in or if he dodges the first attack that comes his way, he gets that big buff. Like, he's going to be tanking all normals, like, easily. So I do actually agree with something you said that I hadn't mentioned before, which I think I did mention in my video. I could see there being a lot of teams where you could throw him on and you just put him in slot 3, because then the turns where he is on the field, he's attacking first. As long as he then dodges that first attack, he has massive stats. He can do like big crits. He's giving that bit of support. So he's kind of interesting in the fact that he can work in those other slots. He is a unit that relies on raw defense, which means, the biggest bosses, he's still going to die to super attacks from them. But I mean, even after he's attacked, he does at least have the 30% chance to dodge. In terms of his hidden potential, I feel like with the fact that he gets guaranteed crit on the first turn, then it's 70 and then it becomes 50, which is essentially, even at his worst case, like 50% chance to crit is like having 25 crit in the hidden potential. I feel like he's probably just a full additional and then the rest into dodge character, and you just give him 0 crit in the hidden potential.
I might change it to full dodge to additional, because since he's an AGL character, he's gonna have 11 additional no matter what.
That is true, yeah.
Full dodge.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna focus on dodge. Because keep in mind he gets the high chance to do an additional super attack. That's on super attack, so that could actually proc off not only his normal super but his hidden potentials as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is interesting. That's how that works. But yeah, because I know you brought up the chance that, like, oh, he could potentially work in slot 1, and because he has the 60% chance dodge before attacking. But I think the thought process behind that is AoE attacks.
Yeah.
Where there's still Fusion Zamasu, who's still a difficult fight. I guess they're probably still thinking of Omega as well. Because the Gogeta Blue fight that has an AoE attack. So I think that they're thinking about AoEs when it comes to that. It's like a thing where he gets to be like, since he gets all his stats when he attacks, they're like, okay, you're gonna want to run him in slot 2 or 3, but we're gonna give him this extra dodge chance to help him against AoE attacks, which I think is the idea behind that. Though I guess in the Gogeta fight, like his passive, we ran out by the end, so you're not really gonna use him there.
Yeah.
But I think that's the potential idea behind that, rather than, oh, we want you to put him in slot 1. Though if you have to, if he gets like locked, like against the Beast Gohan fight, if you're floating him and he gets locked, then he has a much better chance to live than if he just had the 50%. Like if he just had a 50% flat defense, dodge chance, right? But that's it. That's my idea.
Yeah.
And regardless, I would say people are saying he's bad or wrong. He's good.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've seen a few people saying he's like a top 10 unit in the game. Well, at least a top 10 TUR in the game, which, I mean, it's definitely impressive. I think the thing is, we've had so many big LRs release, obviously, during the anniversary. It's kind of, when you think about the top 10 TURs, the ones at the bottom of the list are still ones from quite some time ago, because we've gotten so many big LRs recently. But yeah, if we're including Easy A's, I would imagine he probably is in the top 10. We've seen some crazy, like, because you think about those units that are now dropping towards the bottom of that top 10 list, and he's probably better than some of those contenders, so definitely will be interesting. Now for global, it's kind of funny to speak about the global perspective again for a moment here, because of course we don't have the STR Dragon Fist Goku or the Tech LR EZA Dragon Fist Goku. So this guy is obviously going to become the best Super Saiyan 3 Goku on global. And then, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, we're then going to get the STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And they share the same name. They're on a lot of the same teams. I know some people are, of course, excited for that Goku, but as we've already mentioned, it's yet another roadblock in the way to the anniversary. So this guy will be very interesting. He's on a lot of teams, so should be fun to try him out. And I guess it's like anything, like with the way EZAs have been for a while, this is a unit that if you're someone who's been playing the game for a while, you probably do have him. You've probably got him EZA'd already, SA15 and everything. So now you can do his Super EZA, get some use out of him, and especially for global. I mean, that'll actually be very interesting, like you said, having that dodge chance before he attacks, with Fusion, Zamasu, and Omega essentially still being the hardest fights on global, he'll be quite good against them, against the AoEs. So obviously, I'll do videos like that once he actually comes out and we have him on the game in global. But I do have to completely change mine's hidden potential, because I just looked at mine now and I built mine for full crit back when he basically had no passive. So full crit was probably the way to go for him. Too. But yeah, he literally has like 15 crit, 3 dodge, and then like, whatever it is, 8 additional, or So gonna have to reset him a little bit, but we'll see how it goes.
Mine's probably full crit too.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say one other thing, but no, that's pretty much it. Again, we'll see. They said potentially that they would update like this in the future. I swear I saw something where it's like, maybe they'll consider upgrading super attack effects in the future. It just would suck, because it's like they're not going to retroactively go back and update.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What I think the thing is, like you said, is if they didn't update the super attacks effects as a whole because they're worried about future units, I feel like that doesn't even make sense, because we see some characters get EZAs where they don't change their super attack effects because their super attack effect was already good. So just do that with super EZA. It's like, change the super attack effect for the ones that need it, but don't change it for the ones that don't. But I mean,
I don't know why they decided to do that. That's what they said. They said like balance reasons. I was like,
which is
what other
you just released Beast Gohan. I mean, who cares about? Well, again, the balance reason though is because they, as Theo said, right, the unit has to be balanced when it's a unit that they're not going to make a ton of money off of, because so many people already have Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So if his Super EZA makes him the best unit in the game, then a bunch of people just have the best unit in the game for free and potentially won't summon on some other stuff because they'll just use him. Like if they made him the best unit in the game, even on JP, I could imagine a bunch of people that may have summoned for STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku on global would then not bother summoning for him because they already have this guy Rainbow Link level 10, and now his Super EZA makes him the best unit in the game. So there's something
not necessarily. They made Blue Evolution and UI Goku like super mega.
Yeah, but those are also anniversary characters.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a little bit different, but
Okay.
yeah, I
They
kind
made
of
Kefla better than Rose, so now I'm gonna skip Rose on JP because Kefla's really good. I just think, and I see your point though, because it's like a little different where it's the same name situation.
yeah, that's the main thing,
But
right?
again,
'Cause
the
it's
big point
another Super
selling is
Saiyan
the
Goku.
animations, right? And the fact that I would say the STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku, they wouldn't have made him better than him anyways. One thing I do want to point out though is that even though he doesn't have the super attack effect, there are characters who do give that, like AGO Pan. He could activate AGO Pan's full thing, and she could provide the 2-turn support buff, right?
Yeah, true.
Of the super attack defense buff. Or I seen a screenshot with the LR Gammas, like he was on Movie Heroes, and we have the LR Gamma support. So what's going on with the Gamma 1 is they provides the 2-turn 50% support. If Super Saiyan 3 Goku's at like 1.3 mil defense, then he's getting an extra 650k defense from Gamma 1 super attacking the turn before.
Yeah.
Because it would be a pure multiplicative buff since he has no super attack buff. So he would go from that 1.3 mil to almost 2 mil defense.
Yeah.
After he supers, and then he has the 30% dodge chance, which that's better than what the new Frieza is, right? Which I wouldn't say he's a better using that Frieza for sure, but like just an example defensively, I just like that he at least has the chance to live the super attacks and he can tank the normals. That's my favorite part. But who knows? We'll see what maybe like the legendary Super Saiyan Broly has like 50% reduction, and this guy's just like, oh well, why they make him not as good?
Yeah, his will be very interesting to see. Yeah, because obviously they did say they're going to be going in basically the sequence order, so we essentially know the order of the Super EZAs, which is
it's weird because they say they're going in a sequential order. That could be like once a month we're going to release one of these, or it could be like we're going in number order. Right?
Yeah, I feel like that's what they mean, but yeah, we don't know. So that does bring us on to the next topic to talk about here for Saiyan Day. I'll throw it over to you first, Theo. A lot of people are worried that as the Super EZA is the only thing they have announced so far, that we won't get a normal EZA during the celebration. Personally, I don't think there's any reason to worry about that. I don't think they're going to replace normal EZAs in celebrations with Super EZAs, but what are your thoughts on that? And then secondarily, of course, who would you like to see get an EZA for Saiyan Day? Because there certainly are some units that could be very fun for running on Vegeta's team if they were to get an EZA. I have a couple in mind. So yeah, what do you think about the whole Super EZA replacing EZA? And then who would you like to see get that update?
So I did see a lot of people talking about this. I think it's interesting, because unfortunately, again, it is kind of like another classic Dokkan community jumping to conclusions type of thing. It is definitely possible that it could not happen, right? Like the thing is, I could see them not doing it purely from the perspective of like they want to put more focus on the Super EZA. So for like this one celebration, they just decide to, like have the Super EZA be there and then not an EZA. Like if they did that for this one particular time, just so they could have a little bit more spotlight, I necessarily wouldn't be too surprised. But at the same time, I don't really think that they're going to do that because it just seems a little bit silly. And not to mention, obviously, EZAs are such a big part of every single like Dokkan celebration and something that they know that people look forward to. And not to mention, right, also, one of the best ways to get stones, obviously, that's an event where you get 30 stones, a little bit more than 30 stones, actually, like just right out the gate, after you defeat the whole event. And not to mention, right, it's just like every year for Saiyan Day, I'm pretty sure at least every year for Saiyan Day, we've gotten like an EZA, and it just kind of makes sense for them to do it because obviously now that we have these Super EZAs and they're already kind of getting down towards the end of the barrel of characters that they can do for EZAs, which is kind of crazy to think about, to be honest. All things considered, I think it just kind of doesn't really make sense for them to not do one just like in a general sense, I guess, besides obviously the fact if they want to give the Super EZA spotlight. So I'm pretty confident that they will, right? I would say, before obviously jumping to any conclusions on that sort of thing. I think, waiting to see the actual like celebration details is definitely the best course of action.
Yep.
I mean, obviously that's always like the best thing to do when it comes to anything like this with Dokkan. It's just to wait and see, right? Unfortunately, obviously as a community, well, we're not even victim to it because we do it to ourselves realistically, but like,
true.
It happens time and time again.
Yeah.
So
I mean, was it last year for Saiyan Day? We got the LR Beerus and Whis, but then we also got, it was like 6 other units got EZAs, like TURs. Most of them were
something
like banner
that.
units and like sub EZAs, but there was quite a lot of them in total. So even if the Super EZA is a big focus, I think we could expect to see at least one. So who would you like to see get a normal EZA for the Saiyan Day celebration?
Man, so I know that there are quite a few like really good choices for this actually. But I think just for me personally, even though like I guess he doesn't really fit the theme besides the fact of he's just a Saiyan, right? But I think personally for me, my pick would be Tech Broly.
I agree.
I think it's just like first of all, he's cool, right? Like, duh.
That's the most important thing.
Like, I don't know. I think it's just that he definitely needs an EZA, obviously, right? I mean, I think he's also one of, if not the only, like, big boy Broly without one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think so definitely from that regard, right? I think it would be really good for him to get one. Obviously, it would be cool for there to just be like another option for, because obviously, like, I don't know, they've been like cooking on Broly recently. Obviously, we got the anniversary one, right? We got Broly and Trunks, so it would be cool to obviously have this guy basically get an EZA, and obviously that would be another LR EZA to just kind of knock out. And in terms of like LR Broly himself, right, in terms of like the character choice, I don't really know where else they would fit him, because like unless we have some kind of big Broly celebration, like in terms of Z Broly, right, like this year, which usually I would think that would either be like Saiyan Day or I don't know. I mean, obviously, we talk about a lot that they could still do like a movie 1 Broly and like the One Punch Goku. So they could certainly still do that for another celebration, and then like he would fit in there. But I kind of feel like this is probably like the one of the best spots that they could like just put him, because obviously he's a Saiyan character. And it would also be, I guess, kind of fitting as well, now that I think about it, with obviously the fact that King Vegeta is there, right? Because obviously, King Vegeta was the one who was like, get Broly and Paragus out of here now,
Yep.
So I guess a little bit in terms of thematics that could fit too. So yeah, I don't know. I think just all things considered, I think Broly is my most wanted pick. I definitely think he's the one for me.
Yeah, plus remember as well, like, even though he's not from the same sort of time period in the show, I mean, obviously he's from a movie anyway, but from that same timeline where some of the movies kind of fit with the sagas, he's not related to that sort of part of the show, but he is a Super Saiyan and he's a Pure Saiyan, so he'll be on Vegeta's 200% leader skill. So him
True.
An EZA,
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, he could be really, really good on the Vegeta team. So he's definitely up there for a pick for me. Minato, if you had to pick someone other than Tech LR Broly, who would you like to see get an EZA for this celebration?
Probably the Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Vegeta from the Buu Saga.
Yep.
I think they could be EZA for sure. But otherwise, I would just pick Tech Broly. I think he'd be a really good choice. Just because he's on Vegeta's team, Super Saiyan, oldest character that's a LR without an EZA. Well, someone of LR, right? So I think he's a great choice. I don't know if y'all heard that, but like, someone yell. Someone just yell. I don't even know. But I couldn't tell. Maybe it was like a neighbor screaming his head off. I would say I'm not gonna fearmonger, but there's gonna be a little bit of it.
He's fearmongering. He's fearmongering.
The missions state to win an Extreme Z battle 5 times. Usually, that could be 15 times, is what it is. So that means that we're not going to see. I feel like we won't see a TUR EZA because of the fact that it's 5 times to clear the Extreme Z battle and not
Interesting.
15 times. That doesn't mean. So I would assume because LR EZA stages are 10 stages.
Yeah.
We could still see an LR EZA, right? But it could potentially just be the Super EZA as well. No matter what, I feel like not that we can't see an EZA like that, but usually they bring out those missions where it's like we want to win an Extreme Z battle 15 times, right? And then there's like the new Extreme Z battle that they bring out for that. But obviously, like, you know, if it's an LRZ, they can't do the 15 times mission, so maybe they do the 5 times mission. Because like, would the level super clear those missions?
Isn't it? That's the thing we didn't talk about. Is that only like one stage? I don't know how that works.
Yes.
Yeah, so you just get one stage at a harder difficulty and you get 30 medals, and then that's it.
No.
Yeah.
You don't get 30 medals for clearing the stage once. What you need to do is you need to clear this. You have missions, and then you need to clear the stage multiple times.
Right.
So by clearing the stage, you get
Interesting.
3. You get 3 medals, and then you can get an additional, what is that, 12, 15 medals from beating the missions. So that's 3 plus 15, that's 18. Then you need 30 medals, so that's
you gotta do another 4 more times. So that's
another
5.
4 more
So
times.
that would be the
That
mission.
is 5. So that would be the mission.
I think it could be the case they made the missions to focus around the Super EZA, but that doesn't mean we can't still get an EZA as well. Which then, because obviously if we got a TUR EZA, you're just going to beat that 5 stages mission early into doing a TUR EZA if you end up doing that first. But yeah, it feels like maybe that is the mission just because, kind of like Theo said, they want to give the Super EZA a bit of the spotlight, but it definitely doesn't mean that we can't get another one.
Especially in the future celebrations, that doesn't mean that they're going to be like, yeah, only a Super Z, or because it's not like we have not gotten multiple Extreme Z battles in a single celebration. So even though Super Z's might take up that spot technically, we're still going to be able to get Extreme Z battles.
Exactly.
The only thing people are going to think of is like, oh, that means less stones, but they usually plan ahead. All the stones are going to get for a celebration anyways.
Yeah.
So it's technically not less stones, because then if they're going to put an Extreme Z battle, then maybe, or if it's like they're going to give 150 stones in the celebration no matter what, and then that's their jumping point. If there's no Extreme Z battle, they'll just put missions instead or something, right? Is my thought process, because we know they like allocate.
Yeah, exactly. We're still going to get the same amount of stones, just the way they spread it out might be different. And yeah, I was going to say, to use the example again of last year's Saiyan Day, we got the LR Beerus and Whis EZA, then we got an Extreme Z battle that was for, I think, 5 units, that was a 30-stage EZA. And then we had UI Goku's EZA return because there were sub EZAs for that. So we already had multiple Extreme Z battles that were part of the celebration for Saiyan Day last year. So I still think we could expect to see at least one. Now, I know one that a lot of people would like to see. It probably wouldn't be an Extreme Z battle because, of course, they're a free-to-play unit, so it would probably be an Extreme Z area. Another big one that people have mentioned, and they would at least be on Vegeta's 170 lead, being a Super Saiyan's character, is the LR Trunks and Broly. Because, of course, Global accelerated the process of getting them up to an LR. Each step between those stages was 2 months on JP, but only 1 month on Global. And so one popular theory, of course, is they did that so that both versions would have them at the LR level ready for Saiyan Day. Because, of course, they want the unit to be, I guess, Saiyan related. All of those Saiyans give them their energy and their active skill and everything. They have the 318 meme as part of their unit, like all over the unit, right? You need 318 medals. There's a bunch of 18% and stuff like that in their passive. So what a perfect time for Saiyan Day for that unit to get an EZA for both versions at the same time. So that could definitely be very interesting. In terms of what I would like to see, I mean, we obviously talked about Tech Broly. That would probably be a #1 choice. The Tech Vegeta and Int Goku that Minato mentioned, I've always really liked that Tech Vegeta, so that would be super cool. Now, one that I thought of that's a bit of a wild card, because for Global, it's a little bit out of order, but you think about, I know there was a little bit of a gap between their release, but they've always been compared to each other. They've always been kind of considered similar units, and a lot of people were disappointed that the one that released later was arguably slightly worse. But JP, of course, has the STR Super Vegito EZA. Imagine if this big ticket Saiyan Day EZA was the tech Goku and Vegeta that fuse into Gogeta, because they would be on Vegeta's 200% leader skill. They're a Super Saiyan character. That would be sick. That would be cool. I think that's low on the list of possibilities because of how kind of early it is, especially for global. But that would be fantastic. That would be such a huge buff to.
That would be awesome.
Vegeta's the idea's awesome. Do I think they're going to do it? No.
Yeah, exactly.
The idea's great.
So I think that would be sick, but we'll have to wait and see.
I will say,
go on.
Yeah.
You know what?
No, I was just going to say,
Super Saiyan Trio gets an EZA for Vegeta's leader skill. They're awesome.
That will get an EZA in like 2020, like 8 or something. But like, no, I was just going to say in terms of, Int Goku and Tech Majin Vegeta, right? Waveku, Int Goku, the GOAT, of course. I do kind of hope that low key that they don't get an EZA this celebration, only because I hope then we could get some kind of Boo Saga thing this year, because I feel like I don't know, I don't think it's really been that long. I mean, technically the EZAs, right, was like the last thing that we got, but I really want there to be some kind of big Boo Saga celebration this year. So I think that would be like the perfect time, because obviously that's like a duo unit, and if it was some kind of like, if it was for like Golden Week or something where it's like like a duo Boo Saga unit for like a dual Dokkan Fest, then that would be like a perfect opportunity to EZA them, because obviously that would be like a bigger celebration. So I don't know, I think it's also just because I'm very very partial to Int Goku, right? Of course, being the unit that spawned my basically mascot, right? That like I hope that he's just like cracked out of his mind. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see in that regard. So I kind of hope that they save them for something a little bit bigger, just because I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, there are a lot of big Boo Saga EZAs that we could see coming up. In fact, the unit that I had thought of that I wanted to mention as well, that funnily enough is also from the Boo Saga. We just saw JP again get the Vegito and Buhan EZAs. The part 2 LR from their worldwide celebration was the Physical Angel Vegeta, who is a standalone Vegeta character, so he'd be on Vegeta's 200% leader skill, and then much like Vegeta, the new one in his base, he also gets buffs from having a Goku be around on the team. So I feel like he fits quite nicely into the Vegeta team build if he was to get a good EZA as well. I've always been a big fan of that Physical Angel Vegeta. Has the cool like Dokkan What If unit super with the Super Saiyan 3 Goku Kamehameha, which has always been pretty cool. So I would love to see that as an EZA for Saiyan Day as well. So definitely a lot of interesting options. We will know more when we get the full celebration info. Like we said, I don't think we will just get a Super EZA and that's it. But I mean, who knows? We will have to wait and see. But I mean, that's the thing, right? Super EZA is a new thing, but they still have a ton of other units that need to get normal EZAs. So I don't think they will only do one or the other in a celebration. But we will have to see. So that pretty much sums up the Saiyan Day stuff. We do know about like burst mode and things like that, which will be pretty straightforward. It's the Cell event. Burst mode, I think, is quite fun. It's just a nice little throw on some modifiers, do the missions. It can be fun, can be crazy, depending on what modifiers you put on. But that's just a nice little fun piece of content. They did say a new Infinite Dragon Ball history as well, which of course, again,
that's cool.
Just very like, I like it when I like getting a new Infinite Dragon Ball history stage every now and then, because they're nice and easy. They kind of allow you to just throw on a bunch of units who aren't top tier anymore, but that you still like to use because they're quite fun, and that you can still get everything done, get the missions done and all that kind of stuff. So just nice easy content to blow through in the early parts of the celebration, give you some extra stones to do some summons with. So lots of interesting stuff coming out for Saiyan Day. We don't want to go into like a huge amount of detail here because they kind of didn't show anything super new. They showed the same image, I think, that was from the JP post recently. I think we briefly talked about it on one of the other episodes, but they did show the timeline for the sync or moving into the later part of the year for global. A lot of the stuff on there we already knew. A lot of updates to, they're going to be giving enemies new abilities. They did confirm a new farmable quest character, which is quite interesting considering how popular of a decision the Broly Trunks card was from start to finish. I think a lot of people just thought that was generally quite a cool thing that they did. So there's a lot of stuff coming. Like I say, we don't want to go into a huge amount of detail, but if there was any major thing from that you kind of wanted to point out as something that you think is very interesting, Minato, if we start with you, is there anything in particular from that roadmap that stands out to you as being quite exciting?
The shop updates. Dude, if that shop updates to add a Pilaf's Travis packs to GP.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of. I think it's a domain update. Hopefully that's them updating. Hopefully it's them like updating domains to be overlappable rather than it's like, oh, we're adding domains that change over time. Like Frieza's blows up Namek and then it would be cool if like Frieza blows up Namek. Let's say Worldwide Celebration is like Frieza. Active skill, he gets the death ball and then blows up Namek and goes full power. And then over time, the domain background changes more and more and more as Namek is more and more destroyed. Like, that could be cool, but that would also suck in the sense that the update is not to fix domains. Which is that's why I'm like 50-50 on that. I know a lot of people are like, Joe, they're gonna fix domains. Let's not jump the gun because we don't want to assume things and then it turns out to be something else and people are like, oh my goodness, this sucks, I hate Dokkan, right?
But that never happens.
What? No, of course not.
The other thing I like is the improved data download, like the small things, the shop screen modification. Hopefully that's Pilaf shows, but the improved data download, that could be anything. Hopefully it's a thing where it's just a lot smaller and
no, they don't care about our storage space. No,
I mean they said they're going to approve data downloads. Well, what else would they approve about it?
No, listen, the improved data download probably, I would have to imagine, right? Either it will be it would be weird for them to announce that and then have it be something that doesn't affect the player, right? So like, obviously if that was something like, hey, it's going to be harder to get like the assets from the data download, right? Like I feel like that really wouldn't make sense, but
yeah,
I feel like either it could definitely be like you said, right? That they will, like they'll obviously like
the existing game probably won't change, but
yeah,
like
I don't think that they'll change that.
Any future data downloads, I mean.
I would think either what they're going to do is they're going to optimize the game a little bit more, or it'll be some type of thing where they optimize like the download speed somehow, but that doesn't really seem likely because that's more dependent on your internet than anything. Or, it could literally just be they're updating the screen for the data download, like when the characters are appearing on screen.
Yeah.
It could literally be that simple.
I mean,
so, which would be really dumb, but it's possible, right? Because obviously nothing's out of the question.
If it's a situation where they make it like it's very difficult or impossible to pull data from the data download,
it'll never be impossible. I promise you, we will always be able to do it.
Because people are always going to find the hurdle. But if it's going to be more difficult, that'd be interesting. But I just feel like it'd be like I was going to finish off by saying it'd be kind of useless because we're going to find out a way anyways, right?
Right.
So I hope it's something that actually impacts like, I don't know, maybe just the future size of the game. The game's getting so large, and
I mean, like
knowing how large the game's getting, like
they're not very good. Like for being somebody who looks at the back end of the games, like how the files work for the assets and everything, quite frequently they do not optimize the game well whatsoever. Like,
dude, the Vegeta All-Star Battle PNG.
Bro, don't even get me started, man. Oh, that was too funny.
If y'all don't know, so there's the All-Star Battle event where they had the silhouette for the character, like the S tier base form Vegito that Dokkan Awaken into the LR Vegito Blue free-to-play card, right? There was that asset where it's like the silhouette of him.
Mhm.
It's for some reason they put the asset for every single stage individually. So there's 999
Oh my god, copies of
Vegetos,
your own.
assets of that same silhouette
Yep.
for every single separate stage.
Here he is. Yeah, there you go. Put
Because
it in
why?
the chat. Well, you see, it's so weird to me with that because it's like the whole thing is like sometimes I understand that like they have to put it in there multiple times because like it's just how the game like works, right? But like also for normal easy A's, like the only like asset that they're putting in for where Vegito would be placed is like, you know how when you have like you enter in a stage, it shows the character, right? So like we'll use Bardock since he's the most recent one, right? Like AGL Bardock's SSR is there, right? And then when you get farther along in the EZA, it changes to the TUR, and then when you get to the last couple stages, it changes to the Super Saiyan version, right? The thing that is so funny is that it's only 3 assets for those specific ones. It's those specific arts. So I genuinely am not sure why they needed to do that. Somebody more knowledgeable on like the coding side might be able to tell you that, but yeah, I don't know. Very silly.
501 is crazy.
501 of them, bro. I don't know. It's like I do hope that they do like optimize the game in some way. Like surely they I don't know, bro. They're pulling a Western game developer right now, is like with making these games like giant in terms of the gigabyte size. But to be fair, obviously, that is very off topic. But Dokkan is a very old game, so
In fact, just completely off topic, low-key, but did you see like it's similar to that Battlefield remaster? That's like the separate games add up to like 12 gigabytes, but then the port for it on Steam is like 64 gigabytes.
Oh yeah, for Star Wars,
it's like 6 times the size.
Bro, I could not believe that when I read that. I was like, dude, what could they have possibly added to make it that big? I don't understand.
I don't know, but it's like what Dokkan's doing. I don't know, the mishandling the game, and that release is so buggy too. Oh my goodness, but
completely off topic, but
that's another thing, right?
A little silly, honestly. It's
a little silly.
I do hope though that with that, like that would be awesome if they did some type of optimization. I mean, I know people have even been wanting like HD assets for a really long time, including myself. However, you know where I'm going with this.
How big the game would be then.
the game would be as big as Star Wars Battlefield Classic Edition, bro. Like the game would be huge if you had like all those HD assets. But I think like a really easy way to remedy that would quite literally just be you could like download all, like basically every gacha game under the sun has a download all button where you can either download the assets as you like encounter them in the game, right? And then we'll just download them so then you have them. Or it'll just download everything, so then you'll never have. Well, you obviously have loading times, but you won't have download times for assets that need.
Legends has the option too, where it's like you don't have to download HD either, so that could be another thing.
Yes, Legends has the option to download all. So, like, I don't know. It's kind of funny to me that they haven't done that. I get it, why, I guess, but. And the worst part about it too, and this will be the final thing I say so we can move on from this, but we know that they have the HD arts of the characters because sometimes we see them in promotional material. And recently, obviously, with the boy Vegeta himself, Dokkan Official on Global and JP actually posted a wallpaper of the Vegeta card art in like legitimate HD quality. I practically cried when I saw that thing on my screen, dude. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane.
So good. Like when it's actually not crispy as
right. When it doesn't look like, it's on the Game Boy.
I almost said no word, but
yeah. Like I don't know. So it's interesting.
Heck.
Yeah. It's interesting that they have it, but like they just don't really like use it for anything. So I don't know. It would be really cool if, somehow they were able to implement it in a way that wouldn't necessarily obliterate your phone, even though I don't even know if that's possible. But, Yeah. So, either way, though.
Yeah, the difference between that is actually ridiculous. HD
Yeah.
and then just the like in-game.
Dude.
Yeah, that's wild.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, interesting stuff. We know we're building towards the sync. We know it's roughly going to be about around the time of the worldwide. So we got a bit more info of some of the stuff that they're doing along the way. And yeah, that kind of sums up everything from the Dokkan Now, the big Saiyan Day announcements. So one thing that I wanted to bring up as a discussion topic on the podcast, we're going to keep it short because we're probably nearing the kind of time that we want to start moving into the final segment. But I did want to get this in here just to get people's thoughts and see what you guys think in the chat as well. Because I know I mentioned this on my stream and I know Minato disagrees with me. So I thought it'd be interesting to have the discussion here a little bit, see what you think, Theo, as well. And that is, of course, when it comes down to Saiyan Day last year. So they posted a thing about Saiyan Day around the time that the anniversary was still going on, or at least drawing to a close, that had the sort of bingo theme about it, saying about Saiyan Day.
Oh, yeah.
And so from that time, that started people speculating about Battle of Gods being the Saiyan Day celebration. And of course, this time last year, we did still have a couple of the prominent leakers in the community. So when we got to, I don't know exactly when it was, a week or so before or something like that, we pretty much had confirmation that it was going to be God Goku leaked on social media. Instead, this year, we've had absolutely nothing, no hints really, no teasers or anything until after announcing the Dokkan Now. Was it yesterday morning? Dokkan decided to tweet out and I use this term loosely, hint that was a picture of a hand. And I was talking about it on my stream. Now, I'm somebody who, I know this is one of those things where I know it's my own opinion. I don't think that it is like the correct opinion. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. But I'm somebody that I do like leaks. I kind of just like to know what something is going to be, so I know what it is and then can, you know, temper my expectations for what the unit's going to be like, what animations they're going to have, whether I'm excited to summon for them, all that kind of stuff. I just like to kind of get it out of the way and know what it is. On the other hand, I do quite like it when we get the interesting hints and like teases and kind of thing, where I think my ideal scenario is we get a hint, kind of like when we started seeing them building the time machine model, where a lot of people straight away were like, oh, this is a model of the time machine. But then a lot of other people were like, no, it isn't. Here's a picture of the time machine from like the particular android from episode from Z, and it doesn't look like this. And then somebody else would post a picture of the one from Super, and it's like, yeah, but it looks like this one. That kind of stuff I really like, where if they post something that sparks up a bunch of conversation, but it kind of narrows the choices down to being maybe like, this could be one of like 3, 4, 5 different things. I think that kind of stuff is really interesting. But for me personally, them just posting a picture of a hand, like, that it could, because it could basically be anything, I would rather they just not posted it at all and just left us to wait till the
really
now
wow
to see
okay
what it was.
Interesting.
Because to me that kind of, and again, hint is just completely pointless because it's not a hint at anything.
Ooh, I have a lot of opinions about this.
In retrospect, you can obviously say, well, of course it was Big Bang Vegeta because loads of people guessed that it could be him straight away. But like, you look at the official post of it, and I think one of the top comments was from Goresh saying you might as well have just posted the Dragon Ball Z logo as a hint because it could literally be anyone.
That's pretty funny.
But if you look down the comments, people are posting pictures of, you think of any, because we basically knew it would be a pure Saiyan for Saiyan Day, right? You think of like any of the major pure Saiyan characters, and you can find a picture of them going like this. So it could literally be anyone. Now, again, with hindsight, now you can say, well, obviously it was a hint for Big Bang Vegeta. But yeah, I don't know. I like interesting hints. I guess that's subjective to each person. But to me, it was not an interesting hint at all. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, I if they're going to do hints, I like them to be a bit more, I don't know, have a bit more meat to them than that, I guess.
More substance.
But yeah, I already know Minato disagrees with me, but Theo, I know you're hearing a lot of that for the first time. So what do you think?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that?
Okay. So I have so many talking points for this. Okay. So for one, right, let's just start off with the hint itself, right, before we get into the more like broader aspect of it, right? In terms of the hint, right, I do agree that it was like, it's maybe not the best hint that they could have given. Saying it is, like, it's kind of like that, well, obviously it's Big Bang Attack Vegeta because like it's the iconic thing that he puts his hand out like that. And also, I think you're right. The fact that obviously, right, it's like you have a bunch of these different characters who do like, have their palm open like that. I mean, I know people were posting, the Broly version of it, right? People were posting Bardock doing that in Dragon Ball Super Broly. Paragus, right, does this to control Broly, right? I was honestly coping so hard that it would be Dokkan Fest Paragus, even though it wouldn't happen. But like, or, the thing that I thought could have been it, and to be fair, maybe the hint would have been more obvious if the hand would have been red, but the paper, scissors, rock from Dragon Ball, right, where he hits him with the bop, bop, bop,
I saw some people say that, yeah.
That could have also been it, right? I do think, because obviously when Goku does that and smacks their face, usually their face ends up with a red mark, so probably if it was going to be that, they would have made it red. So I don't think it was necessarily like complete. It was like kind of obvious, right? Because it's like, of course, the Big Bang Attack is probably the most iconic thing with that from Dragon Ball. I do think that it is kind of like, oh man, I don't want to clown on them because it isn't really like a bad thing, but it's a certified Dragon Ball Legends moment, bro. Because like, Legends does this type of thing all the time where sometimes they'll have hints that are a little bit more like complex, I guess, or like a little bit more like, okay, you really have to think about this. And sometimes they just post a picture of blue ice cream. Like, sometimes the hints are just like, dog, what is this, right? And
yeah,
it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I feel like, because the hand one definitely is obviously a little bit more obvious in terms of like the options than just blue ice cream. But I think that regardless of what the hint is, it sparks up conversation in the community as to, what it could be. And I think that is only a good thing because obviously getting people more excited, discussing things more, right? Throwing around all these different theories, right? Getting people active and whatnot. I think that is only a good thing, right? Yeah. Regarding if it's a good hint or not, I mean, I guess it's kind of subjective, right? It definitely could have been something a little bit more like interesting, I suppose, besides just a hand, right? It definitely kind of did feel like that they were just trying to take a page out of Legends book, which I would definitely like. I think those Legends hints are cool, but it would be more interesting if they did something more original. Like, I agree with you, the whole thing with the time machine, right? Like, that really got people in the community talking, and I think that was a really cool hint.
Yeah.
In terms of the leaks thing, though, like the leaks versus the hints type of thing, obviously the hints are cool because it drums up conversation in the community that I think is more like broad almost, because obviously if a leaker was just like, last night posted, yeah, it's Big Bang Attack Vegeta, obviously it wouldn't have been as like, interesting. It would have been like a people who like, oh, okay, I'm excited for him, and maybe speculation about the kit, but it wouldn't have been as much like discussion and like discourse, and in a good way, right? In this case, of like, oh, like, who is it going to be? Is it this character? When it comes to though, like the leaks and like the like the thing of like just saying who it is, I think it kind of depends sometimes, because like I don't know, I'm very like 50-50 on leaks, right? I think that if Dokkan has like a meaningful thing planned to announce a character, I'm not a fan of leaks, right? Like if they have like a live stream planned and they have this big thing where they're going to reveal the character, right? I think that it is kind of frustrating when it gets leaked, right? Which I know is also ironic considering I've also like contributed to said leaking at times, but also like, as much as I hate to say it, at that point, it's basically on the table and it's a done deal, right? Yeah. Like it, you can't really avoid it at that point. I think a great example of that, and ironically enough, this was nobody leaking it. This was Dokkan leaking it themselves because they were being foolish. This infamous 6th anniversary. Right? Where they posted the data download for everything that they were gonna, obviously put in the live stream like a couple hours before the stream or an hour before the stream or whatever. And that was the stupidest thing ever. I like was legitimately so angry about that, because it's like, I want to watch the stream and enjoy being surprised and seeing the reveal, but also being Dokkan assets, I have an obligation to post the assets in the data download, like as soon as I can, if obviously I'm not busy. And usually for anniversary, obviously, of course, I'm carving out time to make sure I'm there for the data download. But like, it's kind of like that, it's such like an unfortunate circumstance in that regard. But I think it's just always more fun when something is like revealed naturally by like the way they want to reveal it. Like, I think a good example of this, ironically enough, is like in terms of talking about general gaming, is Smash. It is always more enjoyable when like a Smash DLC character is just like dropped in the Nintendo Direct or like wherever they're, like showing off the character.
Yeah.
Because it's just a surprise. And a lot of the time for those trailers, right, they kind of build up to it. Like they tease you a little bit with like different characters duking it out on the screen and like different items and stuff. And then they reveal the character and it's like a big surprise. But it's always not as fun. Like I remember in Smash 4, they leaked like Ryu and Roy, and they were literally like coming out the next day on like an announcement or something like that. And it was just like, oh, well, cool. They're just, they're here, but like, we already knew, so it's not that exciting. But like every time that I know that they haven't shown something, or even to a greater extent, right? Like the when Smash Ultimate was revealed with that trailer, the iconic like fire in the Inkling's eye, and then it had like the Smash logo in the fire. That was like insanely hype, because obviously nothing had been leaked about it. We didn't have any knowledge of it whatsoever. It was just like, bam, here it is. Yeah. So I think when it comes to that sort of thing, right, I think it's just like, it is, more exciting when it's not leaked like that. I think it kind of just depends on the like type of leak as well for some things. Because like, for example, right, when it comes to like Pokemon games, right, like there was a lot of stuff leaked for Scarlet and Violet. Like sometimes leaks being like, okay, there's going to be like a new item that will like help you find Pokemon easier, or like help you find like hidden Pokeballs easier or something like that. It's like, okay, wow. It's like, sure, that's a leak, but it's not really something that's going to like impact my enjoyment of the game or like my, hype factor or something like that. Right. So I think in that regard, right, it kind of depends on what it is or how big it is. But I think especially just for like the unit, right, itself, like the big boy of a celebration, especially for these top tier celebrations, I think it's just better if it isn't leaked.
Yeah.
So then that way, it's just shown in the official capacity. I know some people don't care about that. They're like, yeah, let me just see the leak so I can get it over with and know what it is already. But like, that's no fun. Like that's such like a, just like,
it's like almost like a Debbie Downer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, just I don't care about anything. Just tell me the character. It's
right.
Like,
it's like, bro, come on, have a little bit of fun with it.
Like the animations and everything, like revealed and everything. You're just like, yeah, just tell me who it is. I'm a blindfold myself when I summon. Just give me the character.
Right, exactly. It's like, I don't know how that's fun, man. And obviously, like, I react to them.
That's the over-exaggerated extreme end of the spectrum.
True,
I would not
true, very true. That's a little bit of hyper.
If I know who the character,
I was being coy right there.
I know, like if I know who the character is, I'm still hyped to see the animations. I'm still hyped to see the kit. And like for me, I mean, to be very clear, one of the things you said, which I definitely agree with, is having the sparking of discussion in the community and stuff is always good. But unfortunately, when it's a hint that is so vague, the discussion is just essentially the same discussion we were having before the hint, which was that it could literally be anyone. So it's like, it's good to still have that discussion. But I mean, a good example was the Super Saiyan trio, right? The 3 colored lines with the yellow background. Like you could still argue that was kind of vague, but then at the same time, once you pick it apart, it's like, this is actually really like, it's quite clever, in fact, to a certain extent.
I mean, people were even thinking it could be the fighters right? You know.
Yeah, exactly. I made a video saying it could
Right.
be the Super Saiyan 3 trio that was the Heroes card that had just come out. They
That
did a
would be
Super
sick.
Saiyan 3 Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks. That would have been
Oh,
sick.
We
man.
just all knew
I
those were
wish.
really good trunks, right? So
Yeah.
I think to give my part of it, I understand where you're coming from with this hint specifically. I think this hint kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of this hint specifically, but it's a general idea of just because this hint sucks doesn't mean that like leaks will just be still bit better in general.
Yeah.
Because
No,
the
I
thing
agree
with
with
that is
that.
like, I guess maybe you could say in this specific scenario, I'd rather just know the character, and it's like, sure. But it's like, and the thing of leaks is either we're gonna have leaks for everything, or it's not gonna be leaks for anything. is what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
exactly. It's too hard to
Yeah.
control. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And it's like, I'd rather just there be no leaks than there's like leaks for stuff in like in general for every single thing, especially
right.
for anniversary worldwide. Tanabata gets streams now.
Right.
Dokkan now for like Golden Week, Saiyan Day. There's like so many celebrations of the year. If it's like Dokkan Festival First Form Frieza, you know, that was in March, I'm like, you know, if we knew like the Dokkan event teaser ahead of time, or something,
Right.
at the end of the day, it's like whatever, because they don't have something big planned for it. But again, it's a thing where if it's especially these major celebrations, I'd rather just have none. And it's like I feel like it doesn't make the reveal as exciting. This hit could have been better, maybe if they had the hands, and then I don't know, maybe they could have had like a blue bar or something. I don't know, like behind, or like a blue bar or something behind there, or like something to signify more like it's Vegeta specifically, rather than just the hand, where it could be Goku. Like it could have been Paragus like mind controlling for Broly. Not that
Oh
Paragus
man, I wish.
Paragus would have been the main unit, but it could have been hinting towards Broly, like Paragus is trying to control him.
Right.
Yeah.
Something a little extra than just the hand, I think would have gone a long way.
Yeah.
But I still like the general idea of hints. I still
Yes.
think that hints should be a thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should do it for every single release rather
Yeah.
than just these like same time celebrations or major celebrations.
Mm.
Maybe hopefully once we start getting like when the thing is completed, they do hints like this for every single release.
Mm.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
That would be cool.
They should honestly do like some sort of special like Dokkan Now video for every release as well.
I think that'd be cool. I
think
mean,
that I don't know like how much goes into that.
probably. Well, I mean,
but
they
it's
clearly
like-
have like the set, right?
They have
Like,
the set for it. It's
set up.
really just like Omatsu coming in front of a screen. It talks for like 5 minutes,
Mhm.
and then we get
Right,
flashes
and then
the
we're
details of
cooking.
the screen.
I mean,
And
it's
then
like
that shouldn't
I
take
think
longer than like an hour or two to record, and then like editing for it probably would take like 2 days at most, right? So
I think it's like, you know, I think a good thing actually to compare this for this particular instance actually is Legends, right?
Exactly.
Because
Mm.
Legends obviously has the Legends and stuff that they do. Personally, I'm not a fan of the name, I will admit. I know it's completely irrelevant. I think it's just such like it's
But,
such
like,
a dumb name.
even if they don't do Legends and
But-
stuff, they still have like a reveal trailer.
Yeah, they have some kind of like way to hype it up besides just like, oh, there's the unit, right? Like, you know, posting on Twitter, right? They always do something, at least, like either if it's like some teaser or they do some type of like, you know, like you said, like a promo, like video or trailer or something like that, right? It's just more fun. And a lot of people seem to really enjoy that in the Legends community. Like from what I see in the community for Legends, people like get a lot of discussion drummed up from that. And not to mention, right, obviously with us being content creators, right, is to just be more opportunities to like get another live stream in of like, you know,
And,
reacting to something. So
The last thing I want to say is they literally have the like movies that play for every single release anyways.
Yep.
Mm.
So why not just post that movie ahead of time?
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. I mean, the thing is with the movies, right, they do show like a lot more because typically with
Well, they show the animations just like Legends would, right?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess it's basically the same thing. I don't know. I would think
They
I would
cut a
rather
lot
at
of
that
parts,
point like
too.
them do a teaser and then drop the unit. But
Yeah, it depends
mean,
what they. show specifically. I mean, yeah, it's just an interesting little discussion to have. Like, it is. I feel like there's so many extremes on both sides, because it's like if everything's just getting leaked all the time, then it's not as exciting. But then, yeah, if the hints are super vague and don't really add a lot to really discuss, then it's kind of annoying. For me anyway. Like, and again, it is like personal preference. Like, I think everything getting leaked to everyone all the time definitely kills a lot of the excitement. But unfortunately, that's just the way like social media and stuff like that works now. Like, if one person posts a leak somewhere, then a bunch of other people are going to find it and retweet it and stuff like that, and then eventually everyone is going to see it. So yeah, it's fun to have the hints when they are interesting, and it would be nice to see them do stuff like that more regularly in the future. Maybe communicate some of these things in a more interesting fashion, because I also think it was just weird timing, right? Because the hint was that they posted it like 18 hours before the Dokkan Now or something, so people had a little bit of time to be like, oh, what's this, what could this mean? It's like, well, we're gonna find out exactly what it is in like half a day. So it'd be interesting if they posted that like 3 days before, and then, or maybe even like a week ago, and then posted something a little bit less vague like 2 days ago or something. That would be quite interesting. But yeah, it seemed very odd.
They could have handled it better this time.
Yeah, I think because that was strange, right? Because didn't last year we got a little bit of a teaser? They did
multiple tweets. Yeah, there was the one with like the dark sky and all that stuff. Like, yeah,
JP teaser was cool. And then Global was like, "Here's the Battle of Gods background."
So, but yeah, so very interesting. I guess it would be cool to see what they do in the future. But yeah, this hint was a bit weird. My favorite one, I should point out as well, I did see somebody post a picture of one of those hand turkeys that people draw that kids draw for Thanksgiving, where you draw around your hand. And make
that's fire.
So LR hand turkey when, but I thought that was pretty funny. So, but anyway, yeah, there you go. So we're going to move on now to the final section of the podcast. Well, the second to last, I guess, because we have the shout outs at the very end. But we have one of everyone's favorite segments, of course. We have the Trash Takes segment this week. And this one comes to us from, funnily enough, a long-time friend of the channel, AC. Very interesting take that these guys picked out. I hadn't even seen it when these guys are like, okay, we got to do this one. And funnily enough, I did message him to get some extra points and potential clarification. And funnily enough, he did say, it's like, I had a feeling you guys might choose this one. It was like, dude, they wanted to do this one. So strap yourselves in. We have an interesting one here from
I'm about to go feral, by the way. I just...
So we have an interesting one from our boy AC over here on Twitter. That did not stretch out as well as I thought it did. But anyway, probably an L take, but oh well. I don't overall like the idea of super easy A's. 1, it's time to let these old characters die. And 2, all of these old units have been around, haven't been around in forever. Why care about them? Let's just move forward with the modern animations and modern kits instead. So I'm just getting the extra bit of information up here. I mean, I guess a lot of people kind of have said the same thing about Easy A's in general when they first came out, but Easy A's were kind of like the first chance for units to have a comeback. Yeah. So he did say, if there's anything to clarify, it's that Easy A's were supposed to be that chance for units to shine again and come back. And then they've had their run. I was good with that, but now that we have info on it, all they're doing is giving these dinosaurs modern passives, which I would rather them just focus on newer units. And then it also doesn't help you only get 5 stones, LMAO. So definitely an interesting one, because like we've said many times,
hold me back.
Easy A's bringing an old character back to the forefront is kind of cool. But I mean, I can see someone being of the opinion that it's like, well, now they're just doing it again, and then the unit's going to age out again. And if Dokkan somehow made it to like the 15th or 20th anniversary, are we going to start talking about hyper super extreme Z awakening or something? Like, who knows? So go on then, Theo. I know you, I think was it you that posted it first? I can't remember now,
I was actually
I'll let you go ahead.
Thank you. I was sent this take actually by a friend of mine who was like, dog, please do this one. I'm begging you. And I was like, all right, let me look through this real quick. What are we cooking with? And I literally, you know that one scene in SpongeBob where, you know, Plankton's like, what? It's just an ordinary Krabby Patty. Oh my goodness. Like, that was literally me reading this take. So first of all, right, I gotta say, I think that I hate to say this, bro, and this is not like anything that like is against AC, the person who made this take. But first of all, I'm gonna defend my free-to-play brothers here. Okay, this one is for you. Of course, I spend money on this game, but I'm fighting battles for you today. Okay, first of all, right, this sounds like a whale's opinion if I have ever heard one. Okay, because this sounds like the type of thing where it's like, oh, because I, get all these new characters right out the gate, right? And because I spend money on the game, or, like summon on every banner, whatever it may be, I don't really care about these old units because I'm willing to just, drop a fat stack on this new unit and have them replace my old unit, right? So I think from that perspective, right? Like, I know obviously some, like, of course, whales would also agree that super easies are a good thing. But I mean, in terms of like, this sounds like the type of thing where it's like, oh, I spend money, so I'm fine with just, feeding into the system and, buying the new character, right? And just kind of spending money to get the newest thing rather than what I already have being good again. Besides that aspect of it, right? So the thing of this is, right, I do understand the of course I understand the animation aspect of this, right? We talked about that earlier in the stream. In fact, we had like a whole discussion about that. So refer to that point earlier for that. But when it comes to the whole thing of like, Easy A's had the like chance to shine at one point, and that was supposed to be the like point where the characters would then become good again, and then like they kind of already had their chance, so it's time to move past them. I hate to say this because this sounds really mean, but I feel like that's just a lack of understanding of how the fundamentals of the game work, because of course the game, like, as the game evolves, of course characters who get an Easy A, right, are not going to last forever, right? Especially with how old the first Easy A is, right? Goku got his Easy A in 2017 and he came out in 2015, right? So of course an Easy A from 2017 is definitely not going to be on par with the units of today in 2024, right? And that's just obviously how the game works at the end of the day, right? Characters are strong, right? And of course they're relevant for, a time, and they kind of have their time, and then they, do die out, right? After a time. And that's just how gacha games work, right? Because obviously, they always want you to be summoning for the new shiny unit, right? They want you to, fall into the cycle of spending money on the game and always be willing to put your money down to get the new character, right? However, obviously, it's a really cool thing and just awesome that Dokkan even will take the time to look back at these older characters and attempt to make them good again, right? Kind of almost breaking a little bit of that gacha game cycle of like, oh, keep spending money, keep getting the new character that's better and better, and give you a chance to, these characters that you have in their box, which they could, just not have ever even implemented Easy A's and just kind of keep doing that, right? Where characters will, just be power crept over time, right? The fact that Easy A's are even in the game is a very player-friendly thing, right? It's a very consumer-friendly business practice, right? If you're thinking about it from that perspective. Because obviously, they don't have to do that, right? They could just leave it so that, the character is never relevant again. But they take the time to, and obviously not all the Easy A's are good, right? I'm not saying that. But, when it comes down to it, right? Obviously, they're attempting to make these characters again good that they really don't have to, make good again. So I think it's cool that Dokkan even does that in the first place. And with Easy A 2, right? Obviously, because some of these characters' Easy A's are so old, right? And they've obviously aged out, quite a long time ago. Obviously, I was just saying, like, Goku's, EZA came out in 2017. Of course, they're going to be old, and it's awesome that they're even giving them another chance, right? The fact that obviously, they already gave them that one, and of course, up until this point, we were kind of the assumption, and we've even said this on the podcast before, oh, well, it really sucks when they make an EZA bad, because obviously that's the character's one chance to be good again, and then it's like, well, they're donezo, forever from that point forward. But now they even have another opportunity to be good once again, right? Because obviously with the EZA2, making them relevant once more. And even though it is definitely a letdown with the amount of stones that we are getting, I think, from the Super EZAs, it is still something, at least, right? Obviously, you are getting a couple more Dragon Stones out of it. And your old character that you, again, probably wouldn't be using, in the modern day, obviously you have the chance again. I think the final thing about this, before I'll throw it back over to you and finish my rant here, is that, well, actually two more things, right? For one, obviously at some point they're going to run out of EZA characters, right? Because obviously they're so we're at the point where there's only so many left. So obviously when they run out of EZA characters, that means that there's just going to be no more EZAs left in the game. At some point that's going to happen, which is crazy to think about, but at some point we just will not have any more normal EZAs, because obviously, there will just be no more characters. And sure, I guess they could have waited until EZAs were done to then implement Super EZAs. That's definitely an argument that I see somebody could be making, but I still think that it's fine that they implemented it now. And not to mention with how old some of the characters are, I think it's a fine time for it to do it. Plus, coming up on the 10th anniversary, right? It just makes sense, I feel like. And the final thing I will say that I feel like wasn't really thought about when it comes to this take, right, is obviously this is more so in the context of like the actual game and the gameplay. But I think the other thing that wasn't taken into consideration with this take is the fact that Super EZAs is also another instance and shows us that obviously, of course, they're running a business, right? So they want to make money off of the player base, but they are listening to the player base to an extent, of course, right? And not to mention, right, when it comes down to it, right, they didn't have to implement that again, but because the players wanted that to be a feature, right, they went ahead and did it to, appease the player base. Again, whether that's a decision for them to, make more money at the end of the day because like, oh, Dokkan's listening to us, let me buy another pack, or whatever type of thing, right? I suppose is something else that you could say. But at the end of the day, it is another example of feedback being listened to and implemented into the game, which is really, really nice to see. I do see a comment there, by the way, talking about what I was saying, that they'll run out of EZAs, right? New characters will always come out. So yes, of course, when a new character comes out, right, of course, then they'll be able to get an EZA at some point. But with how quickly they are moving through the EZAs and at the point that we're at, I would think that, I mean, I guess you could probably like space this out properly, but with how little EZAs we have left, right?
I'm going to say they're not going to run out of EZAs because we still have so many banner units that could EZA that they don't.
That's true. But that would also be EZA areas, though, then most likely.
Banner units will be, a lot of times banner units get their own Extreme Z battles.
It depends, right? It depends on the unit. Sometimes they do.
They don't do Extreme Z areas, but they'll do sub EZAs.
Sometimes they do.
That's true.
Sometimes they do those multi-unit ones as well. Like we've seen.
Yeah, sometimes they do. It depends on the EZA.
I would not anticipate them to ever run out of normal EZAs. They're not ever gonna rush it. Where
I think that part, it depends on how they space it out. But regardless, though, right?
That's the only thing I disagree with.
Yeah.
They're not ever gonna run out of just first EZA.
I think it depends on how fast they go, right? If they were to speed through it and then get towards the end, right? And even so, I'm also talking about more so like EZA events rather than just the EZAs themselves. Because obviously, even if they implement sub EZAs, it's not a new EZA for you to play. So regardless, though, in terms of the actual like EZA itself to a character, probably as long as they space it out, they'll be fine. But either way, though, There you go. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Damn.
I would say I agree with all of that, right? For the most part, besides like they're not gonna run out of like they spaced out very well. We still have 2018 characters that need an EZA, so I think we'll be fine at the very least for like 5-10 years for normal EZAs. What I would say is I see the sentiment where it's like, oh, well, the unit eventually is going to age out again. But even though it's like just 5 stones, and even though it's just thing, it's just an extra thing.
Right.
I think he still do normal EZAs. It's literally just an extra thing. So it's like you gain something by having it, and then it's just back to normal if you don't have it. So essentially, you're not losing out on anything by having a super EZA. You're just gaining something new, which literally doesn't hurt anyone to have it, but it helps people who do want it, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that, like Theo said, they said there was an overwhelming amount of requests to make those EZA characters relevant again. So they developed super EZAs. And even when those characters age out, they said they're also planning a way to make those characters that have aged out have some use in the game regardless, rather than just through super EZAs. Again, they say specifically that they're also in the midst of preparing ways for older characters to be utilized again, other than just via super EZAs. So maybe it could be a new event where it's like you can only use characters from a certain year that released in that year, or a new event where you can only use a character if they have an EZA, and it's like, you have to use those older characters. Maybe it's not as tough as difficult content, but that content is structured towards those specific EZA'd characters, right? Which I guess people would be mad about because, like, oh, I have to use these characters specifically, right? I don't have this character, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
that's
right?
one of the reasons why people hated Extreme Z areas when they first came out, wasn't it? With like restricting to a group of specific characters is always going to be irritating for some people that don't have them all or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, it depends. I mean, if it's such a large group of characters, like, oh, every character that EZA'd in that released in 2015, it's like, sure, right?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, I think a big thing, kind of as we discussed earlier, as like a discussion topic, is that if Super EZA was replacing EZAs in a celebration, and that turns out to be the case, then I could kind of see like where I could kind of side with this take if that was going to be the case, right? Because I'd rather get the next big EZA. Like, imagine if that was the choice they'd made, right? Is we could have got LR Tech Broly's EZA, but instead we're only getting the Super Saiyan 3 Goku EZA, Super EZA. Then for me personally, I mean, as long as it was good, of course, I'd rather have the Tech Broly EZA 1. But of course, like Renato was saying, well, like, but like.
Time. Like, what if it's like, I could have physical Vegeta Blue Super EZA, or I can get the EZA for STR Kid Buu? Like, you would choose physical Vegeta Blue, most people, right?
My go STR? No.
I'll choose Kid Buu, dude. Kid Buu needs to be relevant again.
Let's say, well, I like Kid Buu, right? But most people would choose.
Yeah, no, it's true. Most people would.
You know what I mean?
Land villains also kind of stink right now. Too.
At that point, it's an opinion thing where it's like someone maybe is a huge Super Saiyan 3 Goku fan, like, yes, Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I'm like, global. I'm skipping the Dragon Fist one because I want to summon for anniversary. This guy I'm going to be using a lot. And then someone could be a Tech Broly fan, like, I would have rather gone Tech Broly. That kind of thing is like more opinionated.
Yeah.
But it still would be nice if it's not directly gonna replace an EZA slot, which I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I agree.
Concurrent.
Yeah,
especially because they're not gonna run out of EZAs to do, right? Unless they like Theo said, if they like super mega push to like, they have to go out of their way to make EZAs that are available for them to run out. So
yeah,
that's
definitely interesting to see how it goes, but we won't know, like I said, until we see the celebration info. Because I mean, again, like Sora said in the chat, right? Because I know Sora had a reply to that tweet saying that he agreed with it. And one of the things he said was the fact that, it's this just EZA real characters instead. This could have been the Int Super Saiyan 3 Goku and obviously Tech Majin Vegeta. But like I said in the chat, it's like we don't know that we're not also getting that, which is kind of, if we are getting that as well, then it's kind of all good, right? So.
In the future, those real characters that have EZA'd, when they outage, they will also be able to super EZA. So it's like, are you gonna like you're calling him a real character now because they have better animations, but then eventually that character is also going to have another chance in the future once they've aged out again. And at
It's
that
like-
point, are you going to say they're no longer a real character? Like
Yeah,
S tier Super Vegeta,
It's like they're
right?
kind of future proofing it in advance, right? Because if they start doing Super Easy A2 now, then it means a year or two from now, we're going to start to get the earliest of some of those other characters that are a little bit not like new, obviously, but we got to get there eventually. We got to start somewhere to then eventually get back to, because all the characters that people are like, you know, people have thrown names around all over the place, but characters that people are really going to want to see Super Easy A's for is characters like Ssj Vegeta, some of the 70% leaders, and then of course even some of the 120 leaders. But until, you know, before we can get to them, we have to start doing it so we can get through all the characters who are before them. So we got to start somewhere. Like I say, as long as they're not replacing it and it's just a nice little extra thing that we can get in some celebrations, I think that will be very cool. So yeah, I mean, just to give my thoughts, I mean, we let Theo go. It was a
Thank you.
it was he covered most of the things I think I would say. It's interesting because they do. It's kind of weird, like you said, like for a gacha game, it's almost, I hate to use that term because gacha games are very, you know, not nice a lot of the time, but it's almost like a nice thing for them to do. That it's like, hey, you know, this old unit that you've already got, well, now they're really good again. So you maybe potentially don't have to summon on every single banner because you can now beat that difficult event that came out like last month that you were struggling with this character that you've had in your box for ages, because now they're good again. So easy A's are actually a nice thing for the player base overall, as long as they are actually good, of course. So Super Easy A is just kind of another thing on top of that. Like we said, as long as they do actually have it as an added bonus and not something that is replacing another Easy A. Because if they use it as a replacement, the normal Easy A's would then effectively slow down. And so some of the big Easy A's that we want to see in terms of Easy A1 would be even further away because some of those slots will get taken by Super Easy A. So as we've already said, we kind of all were in agreement, I think. I don't think we will see that be the case, that we are only going to get a Super Easy A and nothing else. So yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, it's just interesting to have another character that you've already got. Like I say, when it comes to Goku specifically, I've been playing the game for a while. So for me, he's Rainbow, he's like level 10. I don't have to do any extra work or anything like that other than actually beating the Super Easy A. And then we can start throwing him on teams and using him. And as I said earlier, when we talked about him specifically for Global, I mean, he just straight up becomes the best Super Saiyan 3 Goku like in the game because we don't have the other ones yet that are out on JP. So
see, the thing is that even for most people, I assume most people are actually going to skip New Year's. It seems like people are like not like that.
Wait,
yeah.
New Year's.
Well,
New Year's.
Oh, you mean I
the
see.
Super
I
Saiyan
see.
3
You mean
Goku
gotcha,
right?
gotcha.
yeah, for Global.
So
yeah.
it's like, I think this makes it even easier for people to skip because the Super Saiyan 3 Goku will still be really good. Unless you're like a huge Super Saiyan 3 Goku fan, like I said. Or even if you are, like a lot of people might be like, oh, I have the AGL one. He's pretty good. I'll just get this STR one when he's back with coins.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, you know,
Yeah, because that's the thing. A lot of people like he as much as he's a unit, I really want that STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. But yeah, global players, unfortunately, on the road to the anniversary, you always got those tough decisions to make. And yeah, this Super Saiyan 3 Goku, being able to sort of fill in for him at least for a little bit, because that celebration has the Easy A for the LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So then you've got two freshly upgraded units that are just called Super Saiyan 3 Goku for you to try out.
Yep.
So it kind of takes the sting maybe out of having to skip that Goku, takes it away a little bit. So definitely an interesting take. I can kind of see it's part of the perspective here, but again, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's a nice little bonus to have. You know, I don't feel like they're necessarily using any time where they could have been doing other Easy A's instead to just do the Super Easy A, but Goku's one seems cool. I guess we'll wait and see. I think the first big thing that will be a like tick in the sort of negative column for the Super Easy A's is if, because I don't want to say when, we want to try and be optimistic, but when they drop the first Super Easy A that is bad, because then it kind of becomes like, well, what was the point of this then? Like, you know, kind of thing, which is what we say when a unit gets a bad Easy A1, right? But could you imagine a unit like Super Saiyan 3 Broly, who got a bad easy A and then he gets a super easy A and is still bad. Like that would just be incomprehensible. Like that would be so dumb.
I would love that.
But it would be funny for the memes, but
it would be funny for the meme, but it would suck.
But
I
yeah.
love that so much.
So yeah, that was the take from our boy AC. We do have we're in the poll here. Unsurprisingly, we have an overwhelmingly L take vote from the chat.
No.
Shocking, I know.
That's shocking.
75% L take. But as we always say, for those of you who are watching the VOD or listening to this on Spotify, do make it out to the episode live if you can to take part in this segment and let us know your thoughts on the take that we discuss every week. But yeah, the chat rules this week L take. I think we're all kind of in agreement that it is indeed an L take. So what do we like to say when we have a take that is overwhelmingly trash? That is right. Our boy understood the assignment. Exactly. So there you go. So we are going to move into the very final segment of the podcast now, which is the shout outs for all of the donos that we received during the episode. The shout out to all you guys showing support. Like we say, we appreciate any support you guys give to help keep the podcast going. So we're going to go through those here. Any last minute ones, of course, will make it onto the list as well. So if I bring up the list here, starting off with from the beginning, we have our boy, I recognize this from a previous episode, Weeb of Class. What is a Dokkan Fest? I'll shout with the $15 super chat. What is a Dokkan Fest or dual Dokkan Fest you would like, but the community would likely call unhype? Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Oh, that's a fire question.
My top picks are Rildo. Who is Kato Persa? Is that the guy that the weird color change guy from the Tournament of Power? Is that him?
I don't
forget
remember
what his name is. Goten versus Trunks from the Junior World Tournament.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But yeah, that's an interesting one. So Dokkan Fest that other people would consider unhype. Damn, that's an interesting one. Okay.
Tanabata, LR Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks.
See, yeah, I think that would be cool, personally.
Yeah, I think that'd be hype.
I would think that'd be cool.
But yeah, a lot of people don't.
We're talking about the community.
A lot of people
don't.
Gotenks
Gotenks has a really weird stigma in the community where like half the community loves Gotenks and half the people are like, this is not a hype character. Why would you use this for a big celebration? So weird.
That's what I'm thinking. I think Tanabata Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks would be really sick. I mean, honestly, April Dokkan Fest Hercule, I would also people would be like, Hercule. I was like, yeah, Hercule.
Yeah, why
Hercule's
not?
raw.
What about you, Theo? What do you think?
In terms of character picks, I
gonna
mean,
be like, I would love a Dokkan Fest Tarble.
A Dokkan Fest with Tarble? No, I mean, I'm not the craziest Tarble guy. I mean, like, a side banner unit would be kind of cool. I don't know what they would then do that for, like, who would be the Dokkan Fest, but low key, see, I don't think that it would actually, like, it would never happen, but genuinely, just because the Japanese community really wants it, I think a Dokkan Fest Paragus would be hilarious if we actually got one. However, if they really wanted to make it like an actual unit, they could have it be like a Paragus exchange into Broly or something like that. Like, then that would actually be, like, you know, functional as a unit rather than it just being Paragus by himself.
Yeah.
In terms of, though, like, outside of the meme, in terms of characters I like, I mean, kind of a hard pick to say, right?
Yeah, it's hard to think of something that is like, because there's a lot of Dokkan Fest that people want that we don't have
pull
yet.
Pull up the Dokkan Wiki, disambiguations with all the names, right?
We don't want to spend too long on each one of these, but you know, one that I think personally, because I was saying I wanted a new Super Saiyan 3 for Saiyan Day, like a Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, Super Saiyan 3 Broly. A lot of people did not think that was hype, like, because they're obviously a lot of people don't like the non-canon stuff as much, but obviously being the big Heroes enjoyers that we are, we always love that stuff.
Yes.
Like, people are like too hard, like, oh, it's non-canon, it sucks.
Yeah.
Well, people are always like that. I mean, honestly, you know what I think could be kind of cool? Like, funny enough, so I guess this isn't as much as like an unhype character, but funny enough, me and a friend of mine were having a discussion about this the other day. if they made casual Dokkan units, right? Where it was basically like them in their casual fits. So we had like Goku in the 59 jacket, right, that he wears before the Cell games. If we had like Badman Vegeta, right, you could have Gohan in like the white fit that he has as well, the white and purple, you know, that he wears before the Cell games as well. You could have like just some of like the casual clothes. I think it would be kind of cool to have a Dokkan Fest to represent some of that, because obviously like the Dokkan Fest are usually like these more like hype big moments in the show where it's like, you know, all
stuff,
yeah, exactly. But I think it would be kind of interesting to have like something like as more of like a calm scene be a Dokkan Fest. I think it would be an interesting change of pace. Now obviously they would have to figure out what they were going to do for a super attack or like the animations for that. It would be interesting to see how creative they would get for that. But I think most people would probably find that not terribly exciting, because obviously it's like the type of thing where it's like, oh, well, you know, it's not going to be some crazy hype moment from the show. But honestly, I still think that personally, I think I would like that. I think that's my pick.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's cool.
I got two more ideas. That's all I want to say. Okay, one. Dokkan Fest. This one's gonna be a little more exciting. Dokkan Festival Tien from the 22nd Budokai Tenkaichi in the finals.
That would be sick.
Yeah,
that'd be sick. But the Dokkan Festival Dispo. Dispo deserves his Dokkan Fest.
No.
Just like Topo.
no,
Dispo.
No.
Yes, give me a Dispo Dokkan Fest
I think
a Topo Dokkan.
would be better.
Yeah, a Topo Dokkan Fest, and then later on a Dispo Dokkan. Dokkan Festival Dispo. Yeah.
Well,
or
yeah, I'd be with the community on that one, with the question where it says about the community would consider unhyped.
Man, you're not gonna laugh when Dokkan Festival Dispo has 90% chance to dodge.
Yeah, well.
Let's chill.
But yeah, shout out to Weeble Class. I think one of those things is
Q1.
hype is subjective, obviously. There's always going to be someone, if you give any example, that people will be like, I think that's cool, actually. Because, like, for me, obviously, actually getting a Dokkan Fest Mars Saiyan, I think, would be super cool. Because we got that card all that time ago.
Man.
Or even, honestly, because people have been talking about the idea of a future, them doing another Xenoverse collab. Because Xenoverse has a lot more big updates coming. We have a ton of Xenoverse units that still need Easy A's. Honestly, I would take, like, a Dokkan Fest Xeno Trunks with him. Like, we have the Super Saiyan one, right? Where he has, like, the black jacket and the sword. Like, that would be cool as a Dokkan Fest. So, definitely a lot of interesting options. So shout out to Weave of Class. We have a few super chats from our boy Dr. Pritch. We have one here that says Heroes Agenda always. You know it. And then also in response to the comment that was made earlier on, he says, you think I care when it's red? I don't. Also, hashtag Heroes Agenda. So yeah, I'll just here for the support. And then, of course, there was the huge dono from the boy, the $100. But he won't read this in the middle of the episode, which we did. And then, of course, we not only that, what a night. We also had Dr. Pritch re-upping his channel membership, which was the year 12 months, the actual membership
huge
birthday. So you now have the gold Tonebreaker mask in the chat. So you love to see that.
Major W.
Let's go.
Then we have our boy Drace for the $5 super chat. If the main Easy A's aren't Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Majin Vegeta, then I think Worldwide Celebration is definitely Majin Buu Saga. Yeah, we brought that up. I think we talked about that previously as well. There are a lot of Easy A's for the Buu Saga that we need to get.
I'm still thinking Tanabata.
So, I think it depends, because the Tanabata, we get 2 LRs, and then usually we get 1 big Easy A, maybe 2, but there are so many that we need. Like,
we got Beerus and Super Baby 2 and LR God Goku.
Okay, because the other thing I would say as well is, because a lot of the Buu Saga Easy A's, when you look at them, we have the Goku Vegeta, there's the Buu and the Exchange Buu and Gotenks. There's a few dual Dokkan Fests, and a lot of the time they drop those Easy A's when we are getting like a new dual Dokkan Fest. So Worldwide Celebration definitely feels like a good sort of timing for that. But we'll see. I think there are a lot of Buu Saga Easy A's, so I could definitely see a Buu Saga.
As long as I get Buu Saga and Namek Saga this year, I'm good.
Yeah, I could definitely see a Buu Saga worldwide for sure. Definitely. So shout out to Drace. We also have a $2 super chat from Drace. STR Kefla #1 Easy A. Bardock crying in the corner. I mean, I think most people agree Kefla is the best Easy A TUR, right? I mean, I don't think there's any other units in the game that does what she does on turn 1. She does rely on dodging against the hardest hitting bosses, but she is super good. Also, I have no idea what this... I don't know if this was when Theo was talking about Pokemon. It strikes me as a Pokemon name. I have no idea. I don't know if you guys can see this one in the chat. It says, is it Arlecchino is coming? I don't know if that is...
that's a Genshin character, Arlecchino.
Oh, okay.
She's like a very anticipated. Look, Father. If y'all know Father, we're gonna go deep into for Father. Arlecchino is awesome.
Okay, well, not Dokkan related, but shout out to Drace. And then we also have... I was like, yeah, well, yeah, Arlecchino. I mean, come on. It looks like to me, yeah, Arlecchino. It's like, is that a Pokemon? So
yeah, that's fair.
Right. And then we have our boy Talas World with the £2. He says, how do you feel about a Dokkan Fest Chi-Chi? It depends, I guess, which like inspiration they take it from, right? Because we have like the World Tournament one that is like the Peppy Gal's support from her youth, right? Her fighting days. I think something like that would be kind of cool. I mean, you know, some of the main female characters who aren't fighters don't have a lot of representation, which makes sense because of the format of the game. But I mean, we got Bulma, we got that LR Bulma, who was basically the best unit in the game for a certain period of time. So I think something like that, a Chi-Chi that's like a really good Goku family support or something like that, I think would be quite cool. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think all of the like main cast of characters, which, you know, you definitely should consider Chi-Chi as like any of the proper main characters, I think would be deserving of a Dokkan Fest. So I definitely wouldn't be opposed to it. But yeah, so there you go. That was the last one there from our boy Talas World. So that is all of the contributions for the episode. Shout out to all of you guys. As we say, we always do appreciate the support. So yeah, that is going to wrap it up here for episode 29 of the podcast. That's crazy. Next week, the big 3-0.
30.
And of course, next week we'll have the Saiyan Day units in the game. We don't actually know if the Super Easy A, a lot of the time, the big Easy A's in celebrations don't obviously come out on the first day. They come out a few days or even a week later. So we'll see whether the Goku is actually in the game by the next episode. But we should also have more of an idea of what else is coming in the celebration as well, whether we are getting any more Easy A's or anything like that. So that is going to conclude episode 29 of the Slot 1 Super Podcast. I have been the Master Ningen. Shout out to my co-hosts, as always, Minato's, Flash, and Dokkan Assets. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope you guys are hyped for Saiyan Day. Hopefully you guys get good luck with your summons when the banner comes out on Monday. And yeah, we will see you all again next week. So stay safe out there. See you next time. Peace out.
Have a good one.